they ever do.
All they ever do is see hi, Swole. Well.
Svo.
All right, let's get this thing going. So, okay, Tanny glove. And now I can refresh because I feel so bad too that I overslept on Saturday and woke up at 11 right when Yumper was finishing his Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Whoops. Okay, there's that. That's going there. Oh, need the description, please. Thank you. Copy. Paste. All right. Uh-oh. Why is this doing this to me? It did. Oh, it's -3. Okay.
My healthy dinner for tonight: easy cheese and crackers.
Nice. Yeah, I'll be postmating tonight. We have about 30 minutes left in this. I'm going to postmate. All right. All right. So link is set. So now let's go into here. Copy that. Go to notifications. Boom. Like, share, quote, tweet. Bam. Hashtag White Sox. Except I can't use capital letters. And hashtag Cubs. Hashtag Thor, Love and Thunder. Hashtag the Black Keys. Hashtag Yo Mama. For no reason whatsoever. All right, that's out. Good. KB's babies are on the way. Uh-oh, I got to text Grandpa real quick. Hold on. Before we started. I'll text Papa later. I'm sure he's probably not going to be checking his phone.
He might be a little busy. Come on, Sheets, do something. Hit another homer.
It's hard for me to remember these birthdays. At least, his first child was born on my birthday, so it'll be very
nice
to remember his birthday. All right, so ready to rock. All right, here we go, and we will be beginning. There we go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's time for The Tainted Glove, starring your favorite man of questionable character, Aloha Mr. Hand.
Hey, bud, let's party.
And the Holy Reverend K-Fidz himself. It's go time, so grab a beer, grab a bite, and settle in. It's time for The Tainted Glove.
Aloha, and welcome to the July 11th edition of The Tainted Glove. I am one of your co-hosts, the man of notorious questionable character, Aloha Mr. Hand, and with me, as always, is the Honorable Reverend K-Fidz. And before we start, let me just say, our hope is to accomplish more in this show than the Indians did against the White Sox in the first inning today. With that, Fidz, take it away.
Well, yeah, welcome. I am in a very strange mood right now. We just off the top of the little text list, we just found out that Chris Bryant is on paternity leave, or would it be paternity? Yeah, because
paternity.
It mean that he has a vagina. That's not him. Paternity leave, and he's expecting his pair of twins on the way. A couple more babies, and that Chris Bryant Delp blood, which means both children, if they are boys, are going to both be at least 6'5", because both the Delp family, his wife's family, has really tall kids. Tomo, her brother, is a beast, as taller than Chris, actually. Both fantastic athletes in the family as well. Joyce, Jessica, his wife, Joyce. Jessica was the least athlete of the three, but Joyce was an all-stater and everything she played, and Tomo was an all-stater in baseball and basketball. He's a stud. So congratulations to the entire Bryant family popping out some babies. Congratulations to your sperm, Chris. It's very strong and duplicitous, if you will. But good news aside, we've got some better news. Before we started the podcast, and when I was actually typing everything in, the White Sox were down 5-0, but now it's 5-3 in the current game that's going on right now. So maybe it could be worse, I guess. But it looks like Yoan Moncada finally woke up for a second and brought him back against the Guardians, which is Stellan Skarsgård's favorite team, as well as any Pirate. Pirates love the Guardians as well. So, so we're going to go through some things tonight. We're going to talk about the White Sox, obviously, and we're going to talk with Pete's got plenty to say. We're going to let Pete go. We're going to talk a little bit about the trade deadline for the White Sox. We're going to play another round of Is Tony La Russa to blame? I always like to do that. Then we're going to jump into the Cubs a little bit, talk about the Cubs and what's going on with them, futures game, deadline sales, and of course, we'll talk about the Major League Draft as a whole for both franchises, who are the most likeliest draft picks for their slot, as well as what maybe Pete and I are looking for from each of the franchises to maybe add to their coffer of talent or lack thereof in some cases. And then we're going to jump
in both cases.
Then we're going to jump into some movie stuff, talk about Thor: Love and Thunder, talk a little bit about some television shows. We're going to talk about Yumper and Swo's most recent episode, our brother podcast, Yumper and Swo at the show. They did their top movie villains, and we had a little debate about specific character, but we're going to talk a little bit about their decisions or their choices of top villains, as well as we're going to discuss whether or not the ever so popular cult classic character Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver, is he a villain or not? So we're going to have a little debate on that, wrap things up, all that, and I'm sure plenty more. So thanks for tuning in. Make sure you guys are liking it, follow. Smash that like button. While you're smashing the like button, smash a beer, whatever. But we'll get down to it. So I guess let's get into the portion of what we need to talk about. It's almost like a bedside manner goes right out the window. And there's a lot of diagnoses to be done in this show. So let's start with it. White Sox are struggling. White Sox had a really, really great comeback the other day against the Twins. Looked like they were coming back. Maybe something to kind of grab hold to and ride as a momentum builder, and immediately drop 2 in a 4-game set with the Detroit Tigers, finishing the series by winning the last 2. So yes, a win today would make it a winning streak, but not great. That was a series they were expected to take 3 of 4, at least not, if not sweep. And that pushes into today immediately, where we've got reports of team chemistry issues and even upper management having to give speeches in the locker room. So first, let's start with step 1 and the on-field product right now. Before we get into all...
Hey, wait, I got a special announcement.
Oh.
Congratulations to Beef Loaf on winning Sox Math.
He just won Sox Math?
He just won Sox Math.
He can't even fucking count. It's great. Okay.
Yes, congratulations to Beef Loaf.
Excellent, Beef. Congratulations. I hope...
Now he is tied with me in the number of Sox Math wins, so I guess I got to step up my game.
Okay. Well, it's time for you to start hashtag. Yeah, you got to get that. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to be clever, but nothing's working. So screw it. But okay, so let's talk about it. So congratulations, Beef Loaf.
Yes.
But now let's get into the baseball aspect of it. And so the White Sox again with their struggles. This most recent struggles. They had a big series where everything's in their own hands against the Twins, and they didn't get it done.
They shit the bed. Just call it what it is.
Okay, they went Dookie in the they dropped a grumpy in the bed like Amber Heard. And so and then they come into this, the Tiger series and they look miserable. The first 2 look dead, lifeless. The iconic picture of Jose Abreu all by himself, looking like somebody stole all of his pizza rolls and sitting in the dugout, dejected after the loss. Pete, what the hell is going on with the White Sox?
Well, buckle up, because here it comes. I've been sitting on this for a couple days. A lot of people want to put the blame solely on Tony La Russa. Sorry, people, you're wrong. There is plenty to blame La Russa for. But with the situation with the White Sox, where they are now, this is an organizational failure. There is enough blame to go around for everybody. And I'll give you examples. When's the last time you had a decent right fielder? Over a fucking decade ago. You When's the last time you had a decent second baseman? Some people would argue it was Madrigal and they traded him away. Fine, whatever. But you had holes on this roster that you knew you had last year. You talked about filling them after last season, after your unceremonious thrubbing by the Astros, and yet you did nothing to them. You go out and get Joe Kelly, who's Calvin Herrera 2.0, basically. His arm is shot. You can't pitch him on back-to-back days. I don't know if you heard this, but they had an agreement with him where he couldn't be pitched on back-to-back days till July 1st. That should give you a red flag right there. You basically signed two pitchers, Joe Kelly and Kendall Graveman, who are the same fucking pitcher. It's not like you went left-right. They're both righties. What are you doing? Why? And you have money invested in Liam Hendricks, too. So why are you spending all of that money in one area? Not even starting pitching, in the bullpen. Second, for those who say Jerry needs to spend, the payroll is at $190 some odd million. It's seventh in MLB. He spent. There's a difference between not spending and spending like a drunken sailor not knowing what the fuck you're doing. And guess what? Rick Hahn, this one's on you because you spent this money incredibly poorly. You've given out and I go back to something someone said, and I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe it is Josh Nelson who said this. You look at teams. Did they copy the Astros model after the Astros won in building their team? Fids, did they copy them?
Doesn't seem like it because didn't the Astros win World Series? Yeah.
Well, no. Did teams copy the Astros?
I think so. I think it's a trend. Yeah. Same with the teams.
Yeah. The Cubs.
They copied the Cubs when Theo started going offense, developed bats first and pitching later.
Right.
I think that became a trend, and that kind of it dries up the market. And then with the when Houston really, really bought into theirs. Houston just sucked for literally getting so bad that they got the first pick overall for like a decade. It felt.
And the funniest thing, those number one picks, Mark Appel was one of them. Yep. He just debuted, 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
He was an absolute failure. What team has copied the White Sox model?
The Savannah Bananas?
Okay, that's about it. Yeah. But, the Astros tried this model before. Remember John Singleton? Not the director, the baseball player for the Astros. They signed
Singleton.
No, Chris Singleton's the former Sox player.
Yeah, rest in peace, John Singleton.
Yes, but this is John Singleton, the baseball player.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, but rest in R.I.P. John Singleton. If you haven't seen some of his movies, Boys in the Hood specifically, you must absolutely go see that movie because it is incredible. Ice Cube in his debut is just tears the screen up. It's phenomenal.
By the way, White Sox are now only down 5-4 thanks to an
Avery
Pollock single in the top of the fourth.
Right,
so.
And Sebi Zavala stepping in the box. But the Astros tried that with John Singleton. The Phillies tried it. Wasn't it Kingery that they signed before he played a day in the majors?
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out miserably. And the Sox that's what they've done. They've signed Eloy. They've signed Robert before they even step foot in the majors. Now, I think Robert will be worth the money. Eloy, I would say the jury's out not because of ability, but he keeps getting hurt. You gave Moncada all that money, and that's really not looking good right now. He goes up to $17 million next year and $23 the year after that. And your model, your attempt at doing this failed. You tried to do it the cheap way, and it failed. You tried to do it different so that you could say you were the smartest guy in the room, which is another White Sox thing. They have to be the smartest guy in the room. And you know what? If you have to be the smartest guy in the room, you're generally the dumbest. It's like playing poker. If you can't find the schmuck at the table, guess what? You're the fucking schmuck.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is. Now, the Sox are in a terrible, terrible position, not only for this year, but going forward. Because you better make the playoffs this year. Because if you don't make the playoffs, everyone should go. Mm-hmm. The coaching staff should go. The front office, all of the front office, And for those ball lickers of the front office, they're fucking guiltier than Tony La Russa. Like it, don't like it, I don't care. They're fucking guilty. They did not address holes. Some of them have been there for over a decade. You haven't addressed them. You're guilty. Deal with it. And all the ball lickers, you're going to lose hopefully you lose all your contacts because they're fucking going elsewhere to look for work, which it should be. I was on the Score a couple weeks ago. I actually called in and I made the comment that the White Sox need to bring someone in from a higher level.
Sorry,
to
Pete.
look at this. Yeah.
He's the ball lickers.
Well, it's fucking true.
All you motherfuckers are gonna pay. You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
Every time I hear ball licker, you are the ball lickers. Sorry. Totally.
It's okay. Well, it could be worse. You could also throw in Zvo and his obsession with Cockknocker too, which is something that was discussed during their last episode, which I highly recommend going to listen to about bad guys. But you have this dysfunctional organization from top to bottom. What you need, and I give the Cubs credit for this, you need to do what the Cubs did. That is bring in a baseball, in hockey, Scotty Bowman was called Hockey Jesus. Because the guy knew everything about hockey. You basically need the baseball equivalent of that. The closest thing to that, I think everyone would agree, is Theo. Now, I'm not saying go get Theo, but that's the type you need. You need someone to come in. You need to tell them, hey, baseball ops is yours. Whatever you say goes. If you want people gone, do what you need to do to get rid of them. You want to bring people in, do what you need to do to get them in. It's all on you. And how do you do that? Well, if it's Theo, as an example, you basically have to sweeten the deal and say, you know what, Theo, why don't you come here and we'll give you a 2% ownership stake or something like that. Put some skin in the game so he has some skin in the game for it. It'll never happen, mind you, because look who we're dealing with. And I'm not going to get into the name calling or anything else because to me, Jerry Reinsdorf's greatest virtue is his greatest vice. And I know a lot of people will be upset that I said he has virtues. His greatest virtue is his greatest vice. That is his loyalty to people. Kenny Williams should have been fired after the Dave Wilder incident in 2007. He should have been fired after the Ozzie fiasco in 2011. But no, he got fucking promoted. It's the Dilbert principle in full effect with this organization. You rise to the level of your incompetence. Now, this team, for the first time ever, in 2020 and 2021, made back-to-back playoff appearances. First time they ever did it in over 100 years. That's not really saying much because 2020 was an expanded playoff, which you squeaked in because the day you clinched a playoff spot, you proceeded to lose all games except one and fall from first place and home field to 7th place on the road in Oakland in a week's time. You were lucky those extra teams were added for the playoffs in 2020. That's why you have back-to-back playoff appearances. Don't act like it's some kind of big thing that you did it. No, you had aid from MLB and a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic to get you back-to-back playoff appearances. This organization needs to absolutely be blown up from top to bottom. It needs to have someone come in and tear out and get rid of the institutional rot that goes on in this organization. And it starts with Kenny Williams. There were 2 Bob Nightingale tweets about there's, the clubhouse, there's cliques and, there's no leaders in the clubhouse and anything else. Well, I will say this. To me, that story was leaked to Bob Nightingale by Kenny Williams. Do you know why I say Kenny Williams? Because there was another tweet that just came out that said Kenny Williams had a meeting with the team on Friday. So when do we see someone start cutting up jerseys? Because we know how well Kenny is with player relations. This team, it's a losing culture. It's a losing franchise. It pains me to say it, but it is. They don't know how to win. They don't. They talk a good game and this and that, the White Sox way. The White Sox way is losing. Let me just say this. When Don Cooper was the pitching coach, I could tell you the pitch sequences. I could tell you what pitch was coming in what count. And people were fascinated by this. And I would laugh at them and say, no, it's not because I'm a genius. It's because this is the same way they throw to everybody. If it's an 0-2 count, guaranteed the ball's in the dirt in the opposite batter's box. Guaranteed.
And you bring up a franchise. A franchise has, if you're listening right now and you're like, no, it's not a loser. Guys, it is 100% true that there are franchises and organizations in professional sports and in business, in anything really, that have a culture in place that is conduit for success and winning. And the only way that someone that is not a part of that can join the club, if you will, is to break the mold, break the tradition, flush everything out all the way down like an enema across the board. You're cleaning out the whole thing. You're getting a full colonic. And then you start fresh and you start at the bottom and build all the way up. I can say this as watching the Cubs build what they built the last 10 years. You know, we did get spoiled as Cub fans, but the fact is a losing mindset can permeate a franchise just as easily as a winning mindset. You look at the Cardinals of the 2000s, the Cardinal way, where they would just felt like they walked out there and they bring up some random ass Joe and that dude would perform. Why? They're coming up in a system that is built on winning. And
Look at the Dodgers.
And this is what gives me a little bit of optimism for the Cubs, where they're headed eventually again. I just don't have faith that they'll be able to create what should be like with the Dodgers and the Cardinals. Sustained success. Yankees, sustained success. Red Sox, sustained success. Is that you have to win at these lower levels. The Cubs right now have the best record at high A, have the best record at double A. They are dominating the lower levels. They're not even that bad at AAA right now in Iowa, but winning is contagious and winning is a mindset. And this is the real problem. This is again, where I think that we can diagnose with the White Sox. I think we can diagnose one of the reasons why they're so fundamentally shitty, but we can also
it starts in the minors.
It starts with the fact that some of these guys have skipped a lot of developmental seasons in the lower levels. Luis Robert didn't spend that much time in the bushes. You know, you look at some of these guys, how long do they really have to develop learning the game, developing, or were they just a stud prospect going through a bad farm system, teams that were losing, who gives a shit? We're just, it's to get my reps in, got to get my reps in. Oh, I got called up, get my reps in at this level. It's not about winning at that level. And franchises that completely focus on, you want to win every gosh darn title you can win at the lower levels every single year, because that mindset permeates every time that kid is called up. They bring that mindset and it slowly becomes a collective mindset.
It creates expectation.
Yep.
Plain and simple. It creates expectation. The White Sox for years viewed the farm system as a necessary evil. They viewed the farm system as, here are resources we can trade to get this current past their prime player, the name player. Think of it this way. Manny Ramirez, Ken Griffey Jr., Andrew Jones. How many past their prime players have you seen the White Sox pull up? Look at Edwin Encarnacion a couple years ago. He was fried. If anyone had actually watched the 2019 playoffs with him when he was with the Yankees, would know he was fried. And the funniest thing, your friend and mine, Chirizi, was the one saying it the loudest. This guy's fried. You go watch the 2019 playoffs. His bat is slow. And sure enough, it absolutely is. Yumper, there's another example. Robbie Alomar. Not once, but twice. Sandy Alomar. It just, the list goes on and on. And it gets tiring after a while because, first off, they limit who they negotiate. They won't talk to Satan. God forbid they talk to Satan, because Satan's out to screw them. No, Satan's out to get the best deal for his client. And frankly, if I was a player who had talent, I would want Scott Boras as my agent. You know why? Because I know he's going to get me the best deal that I want, not what he wants, contrary to popular opinion. The agent works for the players, not the players working for the agent. You need to get that mindset. You need to understand that the White Sox want the White Sox want to win, but they want to win at their price and their way. And their way is a 1980s business model that doesn't work anymore. And if you don't believe me, look at yesterday's game. I don't know if you've heard all the reports about yesterday's game. I showed up there with my Sox Summer at about 1:15. Now, outside Gate 5, the line extended to Shields Avenue for fans to get in. At Gate 3, the line extended to the viaduct and then split off for fans to get in after the game started. You had a GM or president, or whatever the fuck his title is, who had no problem fan shaming people for years. Well, if you show up and attend, we can't spend what we don't make. So if you don't show up, we can't spend it. Well, guess what? They're showing up and you're giving them a shitty ballpark experience. How the fuck do you expect to retain them? This whole franchise needs to have a serious fucking evaluation done and understand that their 1980s business model doesn't work. And the other problem, I love 2005. 2005 is my favorite season for obvious reasons. I was fortunate enough to go to both games of the World Series. I was fortunate enough to see AJ's stealing first base. I was fortunate enough to see all that. But 2005 was the greatest thing and the worst thing that happened to this franchise. It was the greatest thing because actually I got to see a World Series winner in my lifetime. My grandfather never saw one. My father didn't think he'd see one. I got to see one in person. And second, the reason why it was the worst thing that ever happened, because it solidified their belief in the White Sox hope model. Yes, they are putting the pussy on the pedestal. But they are solidifying the White Sox hope model. That year solidified that model. Oh, this model works because we won a title in 2005. I've described the hope model before, and you know what? I'll do it again. Hopefully our players have career years. Hopefully the division comes back to us. Hopefully we stay healthy.
Hope in one hand and wish in the other.
And shit in the other and see which gets filled first.
Up first, yeah.
You know? That's the problem here. They're stuck in a 1980s business model and they don't know how to adjust. They don't know how to develop talent. They don't know how to judge talent either. So many wasted draft picks.
Fans keep saying, spend the money. And I don't want to do this because I hate when Cub fans say this too. Mm-hmm. Ricketts did spend money. Mm-hmm. Spend the money right.
Yes, there's a difference.
They are spending money. They $200,
yes.
$200 million in payroll is not spending.
Right, correct.
Payroll in baseball, they're not spending. They're not spending right. And that's just where this whole thing is becoming an issue right now. And this is the thing that White Sox fans are. You don't really. Again, we talked about it this morning on the text. Because there's some. Again, there are some meatballs out there that mm-hmm. somehow are called White Sox experts that are alluding to the fact that the White Sox are going to have a fire sale and that they're setting the groundwork for it. They are not going to have a fire sale if Rick Hahn is still the general manager. The only way to know that there's going to be a real fire sale is if Rick Hahn is fired before the trade deadline, because there's no chance in hell that an organization is going to let the guy that screwed it all up in the first place have an opportunity to sell and bring back whatever it is the franchise needs because he's already blown it. So either Rick Hahn is fired at the deadline or they're going for it. That's the best way to kind of dictate whether or not this is going to be a real thing or not. If Rick Hahn is still the GM during the trade deadline, they're buying, they're not selling. And it's a balls to the wall, in it till the end. When the season's over, heads will either roll or high fives and hugs will be given. That's basically, I think that's how you'll know if the White Sox are just saying, fuck it, let's ride it out. The ride or die, us against the world mentality, or if they're tapping out, you're going to see Rick Hahn go first, and they're going to bring in some sort of specialist, and they'll handle. Because I wouldn't nobody in their right mind would let the guy that screwed it up as bad as he has in this case. If this is the perception, why would you let them have one more shot at this that they're not going to be around for in the first place because you're firing them in the offseason? So this is how you know they're going to either go for it or not. I think personally the best move forward is to ride the ship, because this team is good enough that they're close enough. They've got enough ability and there's enough playoff spots available that all you got to do. And I'll tell you this, if the White Sox right this ship and get to the postseason, this will be one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in baseball, because they'll have had to turn that corner just to get there in the first place. So a White Sox postseason berth means the White Sox are going, are going to be playing well at the right time. If not, though, you're going to know too. You're going to have a pretty good insight of whether or not the White Sox are going to be. Heads have to roll, like you said. If they don't make the postseason, everybody's gone. I don't. You got to fire up even the grounds crew. Sorry, guys, everyone's got to go. We're going to bring in everybody. You got to clean house, and you got to basically pull from other franchises. Look, I hate to say this, but the Cubs took what the Red Sox did from Theo. That mentality. Theo got his from, I don't know where Theo actually did get his, in case he's just a genius, but you have to basically take outsiders and reinvest in the culture and change the culture. And the White Sox culture, look, you can't have 300 loss or near 100 loss seasons in the last, 5 years and not have people still in that clubhouse that have that loser mentality. There are still some losers in there. I don't know who they are, but obviously it seems to be an issue with this group right now that the expectation, the pressure has outweighed the pleasure, and they're not playing inspired baseball because they are too busy worrying about the results, and maybe they
read their own press clippings.
They read their own clippings and didn't put in the extra time.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I love Tim Anderson, and I think he's the straw that stirs the drink for the White Sox. But his defense for the first month and a half, 2 months of the season tells me that he didn't put the time in defensively this offseason. He was too busy because his defense was dog shit early in the season. And as he started to get mandatory reps, now that he's with his team on a daily basis, his defense has improved, which means he wasn't doing it every day when it was time for him to do it on his own. That tells me a lot. I said the same thing about Jason Hayward last year. I said the same thing about Jason Hayward. If Jason Hayward had put the time in, you would have seen the results immediately, not after like 2 months. Nobody takes that long to get started defensively. So that's just...
Well, and to your point about and if you don't believe this is a losing franchise, I will cite you specific examples of the loser's lament that they demonstrate on an annual basis. Oh, the weather was cold in April. Oh, we'll be better when we get all our players back. Oh, it's early still. Those are all loser lament. If you think the White Sox have had injuries bad, go look at what the Twins have gone through. And guess what? The Twins are in first place. Excuses don't work. You've built this ship. You've done all this. You've talked the talk. But you sure as Christ ain't walking the walk. And if you can't walk the walk after you talk the talk, guess what? Your ass is out the door. This is a, like any job, it is a results-driven business. And yes, I specifically said business because while I totally agree that Jerry Reinsdorf wants to win, and he is a huge fan of baseball, those are indisputable facts. Guess what he's a bigger fan of? Money. And if you don't believe that, you're an idiot, plain and simple. This franchise is a losing franchise. All they want to do is get their little tax break for the attendance numbers because, folks, I forget what the exact number is. It's either 1.8 or 1.9 million. If attendance comes in under that, they don't have to pay any taxes to the state for ticket sales. Think about that. So is it more profitable to have less than that number or more than that number? Because if you get more than that number, you have to pay taxes for every single one of them. It's not you pay taxes on the overage. No, it's all or nothing.
So you really
think about it.
You think they're losing on? You think that they're doing this to? I'm trying to so you think that this is an intentional losing?
I would not say losing, but the way they handle the ballpark experience, yes.
Yeah, that's true. Their ballpark, I mean, they are notorious for letting fans in and then canning games after they've spent an hour in the ballpark buying food and beer. Yeah, that's a. I mean, that happens too. I mean, but of course, then again, I mean, you've got the weather service. We've got enough data these days to know that you don't open the gates, and so that does make a lot of sense. So I'm gonna kind of change gears here. Yes, White Sox. But today, Bob Nightingale went on Parkins and Spiegel. Friend of the show, Parkins and Spiegel, right? I mean, you got to meet him. I got to meet those guys when you were here in Vegas in the cabana over at the pool, right?
At Circa, yes.
Yeah. So And so today, he said that Bob Nightingale said this on the show. He said the Chicago White Sox players are telling players on other teams that there are cliques and a lack of leadership in the White Sox clubhouse. Now, the key word in that whole thing, which is the biggest problematic issue that I see, and this is something that my mentor, Coach Witt, says all the time to the players, clubhouse means something. A clubhouse means you're in a club. It's the house of the club.
The sanctity of the clubhouse.
And when you're in a club, that means you're in an exclusive group. And that group, everything stays in the clubhouse. It's
like Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And what happens in the clubhouse is supposed to stay in the clubhouse. The reason Ozzie Guillen lost the White Sox team in 2010, 2011 is not because of Ozzie Guillen, but it's because of his kids going out talking about Bobby Jenks being a big fat drunk and other things that were going on in the clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
That is the reason why Ozzie Guillen will not get a managerial job. Because honestly, if I'm an owner with Ozzie, I say, okay, Ozzie, I'd love to have you as manager. And I would like to have him as manager. But your kids are persona non grata in this clubhouse. Yep. If they show up once, you're fired. I don't think he'd take that. And it's a credit to him in some ways because he's a family man. But at the same time, his kids are his undoing.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the idea of a clubhouse. It's the fact that this stuff, if the report is true, I mean, it is Bob Nightingale, so it's just as easily Bob Nightingale says that, and then all of a sudden they're just they're out front of the dugout singing "We Are Family," because it's the anti-Bob Nightingale thing to do. But when you think about stuff, if stuff's leaking out of a clubhouse, that is a major crack in the facade. That's a problem. That's a sinking ship. What happens in a clubhouse? You can have fights. You can have brawls, and as long as the media doesn't hear it or see it, you know what I mean. Anything you can't like hide everything, but stuff like that, being able, guys going to other friends on other teams, I'm like, dude, this fucking sucks. These are a bunch of selfish pricks in this clubhouse. So and so hates so and so. So and so doesn't like this so and so. Blankety 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 blank, and they're doing that, and then of course they're not telling people that are like Iron Oak. Just because again, these players, everyone vents to each other. I mean, everyone vents to somebody. It's a matter of how much are these, are they spinning it and adding it and using it to their own advantage and spreading it around too. So you've got all these guys now. So outside of the clubhouse, you've got someone, people that are willing to go out and tell others that there's a problem in here. That tells me there's a problem in the clubhouse. There's at least one, even if it's just one. We call them Eddie Haskells. Now, if you're familiar with Leave It to Beaver, the old television show, the next door neighbor or the friend, his name was Eddie Haskell, and he was the guy that when he was around the parents, the adults, the grown-ups, he was the Boy Scout model.
Sweetest kid in the world.
The kid you want everybody to hang out with, your kids, you want your kids with this kid. The minute the adults were gone, it was Billy Baloney style. Dude turned into a total like rat. And we call those Eddie Haskells. And if you have an Eddie Haskell in the clubhouse or more than one Eddie Haskell, you have problems. Those kind of players. Now, I do believe that supremely, and we actually, me and the guys from the Pinwheels and Ivy were talking about this earlier today in our DM, was I do believe that supremely talented teams can overcome a lack of chemistry. Moderately talented cannot. You need some chemistry. You need some magic.
There's a great example of, I want to say two things. There's a great example of that specific statement. Look at the early 1970s Oakland A's. They openly fought in front of people. They openly fought each other. They hated each other. Yet they won 3 World Series in a row and 5 division titles. And Steve Stone said it today on the radio. I've never seen a last place team have good chemistry.
Yeah, losing sucks. And, that points to a whole other part of it too, which I was at the tail end of this, I would address as well, is that you have a group like this that you don't have to, when you're that talented, you don't have to. I mean, it's like in any employee job. Like, I mean, if you're a grown ass person, okay, mind you, not everybody's a damn grown up, even if they're in their 40s. People are still like they're in high school. But in a real professional environment, you do not have to be the best friends with someone that you work with at your workplace.
Yes,
you don't have to go out and be like family and having barbecues and Can you get the job done together? You know your role. Do your damn role. Get going. If I can help you be better in your role, or you can help me be better in my role, so be it. Give me the advice. I'll take it, because we're working together to do this. I don't want to see you after work. I don't want to talk about your fucking kids. I don't give a shit about all that. Let's just get our damn job done. You can do that, especially when you're really talented.
As a person who's managed people before, I've always said this to them. I don't need to be your friend. I don't have to like you, but I need to respect your work ability and your work effort and your work result. That's all it is. I don't need you to like me. But at the end of the day, we're in this together, so let's do the best we can to do the job right. I didn't need to go out with, and I would tell them, I don't go to happy hours with you because you probably want to go there and bitch about me, which is fine. That's your right.
That's the point.
Absolutely, you should. Go for it. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole point of the clubhouse. That's why managers don't like going in the clubhouse too often, because it's an adult-free zone, if you will, where they get to bitch about what the fuck was Tony thinking calling that, or why did you call that pitch? That was stupid. That's what it's for.
Mm-hmm. And it's, again, this White Sox team falls under the supremely talented label. So if you're someone that's like seriously concerned about clubhouse chemistry, though, and all this, look, again, this is the thing that it drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely crazy, because I think a lot of fans believe that demonstrative means focused or passionate, and if you're not jumping around doing jumping jacks and acting like a slapdick, you must not care. You must be a passionless player. No, some guys, Mike Trout doesn't have to go out there and jump around, shoot firecrackers out of his butt cheeks to get, to show that he loves the game. You know what he does? He goes out there and dominates the game. That's what people that love the game also do. It's not a circus. Okay. It doesn't have to, some fans do want that. More power to them, but you're not going to get that from everybody. So you can't say that, like, Jose Abreu is not, he might do a room or whatever, stuff like that, but he's not a guy that's going to go running around slapping everybody's butts and like, let's get it. You got a guy like Eloy that can do that, right? There are guys in the locker room that do that, but you can't say that he's not passionate about it. Right. He's not doing the demonstrative stuff. And I think that's where fans worry. Look, these guys are supremely talented. The problem is, are these guys supremely professional? And this is where we're seeing the youth of some of them. Some of them have never learned how to lose. They've been the best at everything. They've been dominant in everything they do, especially the guys that have been jumped up. Because, again, they're told at every level, it doesn't matter about losing at this level because we're just developing you and you're going to be here anyway. So who gives a shit if win, loss, tie, it doesn't matter. Just get your repetition in and get out, go shower, ice, do your workouts. And then in 3 years, 4 years, hopefully you'll be in the show and you can, do whatever the fuck you want up there. And that's the problem that they have. They've never learned how to be passionate about. This is it. There's no other level beyond this. This is the expectation to win here, now, a World Series. And these guys didn't come out of the gate hot. And some of these guys have never had skin in the game enough where losing actually matters that much to them. And now it does. And they can't handle it. They're not handling it. And I don't know who that is. And I don't want to point any fingers because I have looking at that Sox. Guys that are usually more high energy and guys that aren't. That might be a little bit of a tell. But I don't give a shit if Tim Anderson smolders on the bench like what's his name in like The Rock in Jumanji. I don't care. Like smolder all you want. That doesn't tell me shit. That doesn't tell me he's not focused or that he's being a cancer. Just like someone that's someone might be doing it sarcastically, being like, "Oh, I'm gonna be Mr. Cheerleader because fuck everybody else." I don't like you.
Nick Swisher.
Yeah, you don't know who if there's a Haskell or two in that clubhouse, you don't know who it is because every time that camera is on, they supremely are wise in knowing exactly where the cameras are at all times. Those are the guys, probably in my opinion, you got to worry about the most because those guys are actually putting on a PR campaign with everything that they do so that even the optics of everything they do in that dugout is important for them and their brand. Now, and I'm not saying that's TA because I don't think TA gives a shit what you think about him. And that's why I don't think it's him. But there are people in there that have a brand or are building a brand. And I don't know. The
third baseman?
It could be. It's easy to blame him too because of his flash and stuff. But sometimes it's the less flashy ones that are the Eddie Haskells because they're not getting the attention that the other ones got. And so, I don't know. I don't know AJ Pollock as a teammate. You start to look at what this team acted and how this team acted last year and the joy they showed. and then you take away and add whatever was taken away and added last year, and you can kind of like at least put your finger on a little bit of like where maybe it came from, because it did ruffle up the clubhouse. Like, was Nick Madrigal a well-liked dude in the clubhouse? Did those guys like him? And now he's gone, and they're missing that little Mighty Mouse running around, I don't know, smacking everybody's ass with a towel. I don't know what the hell he did in the locker room. I mean, sure.
Was it Rodon? Rodon's not there. Was he?
Was it Rodon? I mean,
yeah.
Did Dallas Keuchel imprint on this team too much? Did they pull the trigger too late? And did he leave his shit all over the locker room? And now everybody's just drenched in his. And now he created, and maybe he planted seeds here and there of negativity. Maybe created doubt and a lack of chemistry. Maybe he was in somebody else's ear about someone, and then someone else. I mean,
Giolito's ear.
The damage he could have done in 3 months in that clubhouse, and then obviously a whole year ahead of that. I mean, we don't even know. I mean, Dallas Keuchel could have been why this team is still struggling today, because he planted the seeds of anger and hate. It could have been Ryan Tempura. Yes, Ryan Tempura.
And by the way, I want to address something that Yumper put in the comments. And anyone watching, feel free to jump into the comments if you want to say anything. Tell us we're great. Tell us we suck. Yumper says, as a player, though, you don't go tell other clubhouses what is going on. That is absolutely true on multiple levels. The biggest level being, let's say they go to Aaron Judge is a free agent at the end of the year. And let's say Aaron Judge is hearing this stuff. And the White Sox wanted to make a play for Aaron Judge. I don't think so, but let's just be hypothetical with me. Don't you think that would factor into his decision? Well, I've heard bad things about the clubhouse there. I don't want to deal with that crap. Because again, I am not a superstar player. I was a hack. I was the big fat Engelbert looking catcher. But even when I go for a new job, I try and find people who know people there or who work there and say, what's it really like? Don't you think these guys are doing the same thing? Because it's a little different for them than it is for you and me. Because I could go someplace else and in 3 months go, this sucks, and go find another job. They're contractually obligated for however long they signed the contract for. Of course they're going to do their due diligence, and they're going to hear this stuff. And if they hear it from a player on the field, they're talking behind second base before the game. Oh, yeah, this clubhouse sucks. Guess what? There goes bargaining power for trying to get the next free agent. And it not only limits you with the likes of Judge, it also limits you possibly with the swing man second baseman you need, or the 25th man off the bench, or I was going to say loogie, but loogies don't exist anymore, but your left-handed reliever. And the Indians now lead the White Sox by the score of 8-4.
God, feels like the Cubs yesterday, but that means that the Guardians are being the Cubs from yesterday, though. That's a good thing. Yesterday, that was the Cubs. The Cubs would separate. And they were 5-0 in the first, and then it's 5-3. And then Bodie hits a 3-run jack. It's 8-3. And next thing you know, it's 8-7. And then it's 9-7. Then it's 10-7, 11-7, and 11-8. And we all want to cry. So.
Well, and the thing is, I've told people this season reminds me of 2016. And the reason I say that is because go look at the White Sox divisional record in 2016. They could not beat the Royals. They could not beat the Indians. They could not beat the Twins. And they basically, I think, broke even against the Tigers. That is how they went from being in first place in mid-May to the fucking toilet. And, and of course now the training staff is out looking at Matt Foster because he might have hurt something.
Oh, that's always good.
And he's walking around the mound, and the trainer's talking to him, and La Russa's, oh, jeez.
This injury
but
type.
It looks like he's staying in, thank goodness. What? So, but it's a case of this is a loser franchise. And they need to bring someone in to root out the institutional rot from low A all the way through the majors. Because to your point, which I know we've talked about before, yes, you want the player to get their reps and get everything in, learn what they need to learn, but you also want to install a culture of winning. It starts at the lower levels so that as these players move up the chain, they're taking that culture with them.
Yep.
They're taking that sense of accountability with them. And then when it gets to the majors, it gets instilled there. You have players who are like, this guy's a leader. You know why? Because he takes pride and he wants to win and he knows how to do it because he's done it everywhere else he's been. The White Sox don't know that. They don't. They don't know how to fucking win. They don't. They think that, oh, we were preseason picks by some people to win the World Series. So teams should just roll over and we can win the World Series. I think the Cubs found that out after they won the World Series, that getting back there is twice as hard as getting there the first time. Ask the Yankees about that. Getting back there, the White Sox have a big ass fucking bullseye on their back. Not so much anymore, but at the beginning of the season they did. Because Tim Anderson going around on TV, oh yeah, we're the best fucking team in this division, or whatever the hell it was that quote was.
Well, here's the
stuff
thing,
like that.
The Bears did it back in '85. Chicago loves you that goes out there and says, these are my balls. Check them out. Now I'm going to proceed to put them on your chin. Check it out. They tell you they're going to do it, and then they do it. Jordan constantly, but maybe I don't know. I love the bluster. I actually did. The thing that happens with bluster, though, is it puts you on the hook for it. And if you don't get it done, now you get to eat your crow. And people, when you do that, when you go out there and you exude that confidence like that, because I'm not going to say there's nothing wrong with it. It's great. It's fun for entertainment too. But the minute you do that, you have to understand that everybody's going to bring it when they see you. You just now gave them every bit of motivation on a dumbass hot summer day when it's the dog days of summer and really there's nothing else to get up for. Oh, we're playing the Sox today. Remember those motherfuckers back in the January? Said, they didn't even mention us. They shushed us off even when talking about anybody that they're going to be competing with this year. They want to shove that down their throat. Ooh.
Yep. And I'll give you an example, a Twitter example that everyone can relate to. He's a loser, but do you think everyone loves to line up against Ken W.O. just out of spite for how cocky and arrogant and confident he is in everything he says?
Yep, brings it.
He brings it and he gets it brought to him. And to his credit, I will give him the utmost credit, but don't tell him this because I don't need his head getting any bigger.
I had a kid. Oh, good.
To his credit, he will take on all comers.
Yep.
He won't shy away.
And I had a kid that I coached, man, and I'll say this: I didn't get along with him. I didn't get along with his parents. This is probably if I were to say the probably number one worst relationship I've ever had with a player that I coached in my entire career. I'll say this, and the absolute worst parents I can say 100% that I ever dealt with as a teacher, as a coach, as a human being. Horrible human beings, absolutely like literally the trash of trash heaps. But this kid, apple trees produce apples, walnut trees produce walnuts, et cetera, et cetera. This kid was a product of his shit parents and the entitlement that he was given because they had money and they were, whatever. And this kid, to his credit, I was hard on him and I didn't cut him. Obviously, I kept him around. He didn't, if I didn't want him, I'd have cut him, right? If I didn't think that the kid didn't have a chance to maybe figure it out, I would have cut him. You know what I mean? You don't cut until until it's done. You don't give up on a kid until it's over. And that it wasn't over for that kid. He just needed to be around. So, give or take, tough love here and there. But right before our playoff game against, I want to say I was Cimarron High School. I had one. It was my first year as a head coach. Not my second year as a head coach technically, but my first year in the playoff as a head coach. So this is my first opportunity for a playoff win, and we had a tie ball game. And there's a guy on first and second. And there's nobody out, and this kid the night before had gone on. So, one of my biggest things was, stay off social media, guys, no bulletin board material, et cetera, et cetera. You don't need to give anybody any extra motivation, yada, yada, yada. And that goes on. He talked about how he was going to dominate. We're going to we're going to blast Cimarron tomorrow. Basically ran his mouth. He talked some shit. And he posted it out there publicly. And they had it posted in their dugout. So it was a screenshot in their dugout of his quotes. So I'm like, I'm when I go coach third, I'm like, I look in the dugout. I'm like, Jesus. Thanks a lot, dude. And so we get in this situation anyway, guys. It's the bottom of the sixth because it's a tie ball game. Bottom of six, and guys on first and second, nobody out. I need to get out of the gym. He's my guy. He's a lefty. He gets he throws low 80s, upper 70s, low 80s. The perfect kind of high school lefty you want. Had good command, and I'm like, you know what? I got to go with him. Ironic that it's his spot. So I walk up to him. I call him in. And he comes out to the mound, and I go, all right, man. I go, you wanted this. Here you go. You ran, you talk the talk. Now let's walk the walk. Go get him. That's how I said it. Like, imagine that's the tone, right? You talk the talk. Now let's go get him. Like, all right, fuck it. Let's go. Like, that's how I was saying it. Like, fuck it. Let's go. Yeah. He grabs the ball. He got done. Boom. I find out 7 years later that he had believed that I was saying, I was telling him, I hope you lose. I'm like, Jesus, why would I do that? Why would I want to lose my first playoff game, like, ever? And, it's my first chance to get that. I look at my back. There's balls back there. Those are first wins of some kind. First win as a head coach. First win as a varsity coach. First win as a playoff win. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to. But that was just, you get that, you run your mouth. But it's, you can bless that kid's heart. You put him in that situation, say, talk the talk. Here you go. And he did it. He rose to the occasion, which told me a lot about his potential as a kid. But some guys rise when they do that, and that talking hypes them up, and it does work. But some guys, think Joe Namath, think the Chicago Bears, the 85 Bears. I mean, they had the bullseye. So you do it, but some guys don't realize the repercussions of saying it. They just say it because they think life's a movie. And work out because you're the main star of your movie. Well, buddy, we're all in our own movies. Everybody in that other dugout's in their own damn movies. Everyone's in their own movies. Yep. They've got their happy ending listed too. So you don't get that. It doesn't work that way. So you got to be careful what you say. You have to know if you can handle it top to bottom. And if you say it flippantly, you set your teammates up for failure.
Yep. Absolutely agree. And getting back to the White Sox, I'll just say, as long as this management structure is in place, more so the front office than who's in the dugout, this team will always be the same.
But even though they might always be the same, we know whose fault it is.
Yes. Yes, we do.
We know whose fault it is. So we're going to go ahead and segue around, and we're going to find out really what is Tony La Russa to blame for. Because now we're going to play our favorite game. Is Tony La Russa to blame? So real quick, let me go ahead and get my stuff pulled up. All right, so get our theme music going. Gotta have our theme music. Let's see if I can make sure that this is that's not it. That'd be cool theme music, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be cool theme music.
That's an awesome power song. That popped up on the playlist. So here we go. All right. So last time we played this game, we know how the rules work. Now that you guys are veterans, if you've been listening to our show, this is a fun game that we like to play called Is Tony La Russa to Blame? And is Tony La Russa to blame for? Well, Pete, is Tony La Russa to blame for Herschel Walker thinking that China and the U.S. trade dirty and clean air only because Herschel Walker is not a scientist? Is he to blame for Herschel Walker's incredible? Just the first headline I just saw is Herschel Walker. Yeah, never mind. Okay. But is he to blame for pollution? Dirty pollution from China and clean air in the United States. Is that Tony La Russa's fault?
Yes, it is. I will tell you it is Tony La Russa's fault because he is the person who enabled the steroid use in the 1980s. And if you've been to San Francisco, you see syringes all around the ground. So it's obviously from all his players from those Oakland A's teams in the late 80s shooting up steroids that's left over from them.
All right. That is definitely Tony La Russa's fault. Your turn.
Is it Tony La Russa's fault for the Kardashians?
Oh. I think Tony La Russa is at fault for the Kardashians. See, Tony La Russa was an athlete in the 70s, as a professional athlete in the 70s, and someone that was also running the same autograph circuit. He did come into contact with Robert Kardashian. At some point or another, I'm sure he hung out with O.J. Simpson, and O.J. Simpson's best friend was, of course, Robert Kardashian. And so I would say that Tony La Russa not telling Robert Kardashian to steer his children away from the spotlight and their need for attention, and to coddle them and to give them the love. And tragically, of course, we know about Robert Kardashian passing away after the O.J. Simpson trial, but probably Tony La Russa's fault in general for just telling him to not be friends with O.J. Simpson, which is a great way to get yourself stabbed. So, yes, it is Tony La Russa's fault. The Kardashians are. Now, let's see here. Spirit Airlines and Frontier Airlines canceling thousands of last-minute flights. Who's to blame? Is Tony La Russa to blame, and why?
Yes, Tony La Russa is to blame for this, because after Tony La Russa was busted for driving drunk the second time, airline pilots had to undergo new drunk driving tests to make sure they were not, or I should say drunk flying tests, to make sure that they were not drunk while flying the airplane. So obviously it was a holiday weekend the weekend before. Some people probably had some time off, did a little too much 108ing, and wound up failing their sobriety test, and therefore were not able to fly the plane. So yes, it is absolutely Tony La Russa's fault, because he encourages that behavior.
Okay.
All right. Is it Tony La Russa's fault that Elon Musk canceled his Twitter bid, or backed out of his Twitter bid?
I am going to say no. It is not Tony La Russa's fault that Elon Musk backed out, pulled out of the Twitter.
The only time he's pulled out.
There it was, waiting for it. There it was. It was my favorite joke. No, it is 100% Elon Musk's fault. Actually, you know whose fault it is? It's anybody who thought Elon Musk was going to buy Twitter's fault that Elon Musk didn't buy Twitter, because Elon Musk never really wanted to buy Twitter. Elon Musk just wanted some attention, and now he got it. But
I will say Elon Musk will own Twitter, but it'll be at a much greatly reduced rate.
Well, now he's going to have to pay them $1 billion just for canceling out his.
But also Twitter can't handle the bad publicity of him backing out of it, because their stock price is cratering. So I could see him owning Twitter, but at a reduced cost.
I don't know. I did find it weird that there was like a huge drop in fake accounts after he didn't get the bid. I thought that was interesting. Mm-hmm. One could say either way, that it was either a bunch of bots that were finally not needed to say no, or one could say there was a bunch of bots saying yes. So they all disappeared, whoever they were. So that was interesting. But no, that's not Tony La Russa's fault. That's Elon Musk's fault. And I blame Elon Musk, unless he wants to give me $10 million to not blame him. And then it's definitely Tony La Russa's fault if he just gives me a couple dollars. I'll take, just buy me a pizza. I don't know. I'm a teacher. I just fucking need money. No. All right. One last round. We'll do one last. All right. Let's find some real good current events. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. All right. I'm going to go deep into the annals of news. So, got to restart the song though. Start it again. Okay, here we go. All right. An Aldi shopper, in purchasing ice cream from Aldi, obviously, because they're an Aldi shopper, they opened their box to find boob marks on their ice cream. Yes, they opened up their sweet treat which was it was a Peppa Pig ice cream apparently, too, and it had boobs, like someone pressed their boobs into the ice cream, and then I guess somewhere else there looked like a little part. It looked like someone even drew a penis. So my question, because it is an Aldi supermarket in it looks like it doesn't say where. Darn. Well, yeah. Oh my goodness gracious! Yeah, that picture is pretty telling. That someone was doing some ice dipping. I guess we'll call it a Belgian dip. But is it Tony La Russa's fault that? And I mean, I guess that would mean, did Tony La Russa do this, or is it his fault that happened to these poor people?
I am going to say yes, because based on the way you're describing it, and I have not seen that story, mind you, or the pictures, so bear with me. I am going to say yes because we know that he is a kinky fucker, and he probably was shacked up with Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy, and they got a little too kinky and a little too drunky one night, and that was the result.
Okay. I have this really oh God, I'm looking at the picture and I have this. See, if Tony was the one that did it though, there would also be like little hairs in there too, I would see, right?
And I would imagine there's a splash of wine or two in there as well.
Yeah, you'd see like a little bit like a
little red.
Yeah.
You know.
A little vino in there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it would have to have, I mean he's got probably some great looking nipples. So Tony La Russa's nipples are not things I thought we'd discuss tonight, but here we are. And now I've got the thought of him running in slow motion on a beach without a shirt. God dang it. All right, well.
To Ravel's Bolero?
All right. And then we'll go. You had to keep those nipples were burning up.
So, is it Tony La Russa's fault for the crime wave in Chicago?
Yes, because he is Tony La Russa's fault. The crime wave in Chicago is Tony La Russa's fault because Tony La Russa is a gangster. We've seen pictures of him in his City Connect jersey, cocking his hat, showcasing and throwing up gang signs in the dugout at Guaranteed Rate Field. So we know that he is really sending signals to his sect, his posse. And they are out robbing, and they are the ones creating chaos. He has us all fooled. In fact, Tony La Russa lives a dual life when we don't see him. And when he's pretending to be out and about, he's actually like Bruce Wayne, except like the Joker version of it. He's like a super villain. And at night, when we all think that Tony La Russa is just taking a nap because he's old and tired, he's actually out creating chaos as an anarchist. So he's really that's
I like that. I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. That might also be why he looks sleepy in the dugout at times.
That's quite the rabbit hole right there. That's fun.
Yeah.
Tony La Russa's underground criminal empire that can only be stopped by the Batman.
I'm Batman.
Played by
Christian Bale.
All right. So now that we've kind of played that fun little game, we can also jump to the next, which is don't forget that our brother organization, Yumper and Swoo at the show, are doing a special benefit movie night, barbecue and a movie on. Let's see. Let me pull this up again. I'm always double.
August 20th, Saturday, yeah. August 20th.
Right. If you go on Eventbrite or you go to their Twitter, which is at Yumper and Swo, YUMPERANDSVO on the Twitters, you can click on the link.
And Bingo was his name.
Correcto. And you can go to their Eventbrite page. You can buy tickets. But basically, just so you guys know, I'll just go ahead and read this at Yumper and Swo. We believe in women's reproductive rights and their ability to choose. Yesterday's, which is the Roe versus Wade decision, hurt us all and affects everyone. So we can't sit back and tweet our thoughts and prayers. So we wanted to do something to help. So Saturday, September 20th, Yumper and Swow, summer movie barbecue bash in my monster truck voice. So outdoor movie barbecue tickets will get you a barbecue and a drink, a seat to their outdoor screening of the cinematic masterpiece of choice from Swow. He's going to and Yumper. They will come together and decide what is the cinematic masterpiece. Tickets are $25. That again, you'll get your plate per plate, your ticket and food for beverage. Movie will be revealed at a lower date. There's also going to be beer pong, door prizes. Guaranteed, there's going to be some sort of nudity.
Spo will be taking his shirt off at some point, no doubt.
Showing some chest at least at some point, if not just like the belly button. But so give that a look. See though, the event you can check it out. It's Yumper and Swow Charity Barbecue. You can go on Eventbrite if you want to search it there. You can find it on Twitter as well on their Twitter account though. So support those dudes. They're doing a great thing, and they're very passionate dudes. And so they Yumper says there will be tacos. So
all right, and a couple other things about that. One. All the money raised goes to Planned Parenthood. As the fellas announced on their podcast the other day, their donation is the food and drink for everybody. So all money raised goes to Planned Parenthood. And if you can't make it but would still like to donate, there is also a link for just a straight donation to Planned Parenthood at that same site as well.
Correct. So we're proud of those dudes. They're great dudes. Seriously, they're some of our favorite humans in this galaxy. So,
and this is something they're very passionate about, and go out and support them because they are very passionate about it.
Absolutely. So, as we segue from that transition, we're going to jump a little bit into the Cubs for a second. I won't go too deep into it because this season's kind of like one of those things. Like it almost pains me to talk about the Cubs, but they're coming back from a little bit of a Western swing, and they just got to go. I love LA.
We love it.
Usually every year, this is my road trip. I head to LA with my buddy Josh, and we watch a couple Cubs Dodgers game. He's a big Dodger fan. There's even a shuttle here that you can pay. It's like $100, and you get like a shuttle bus. Like it's one of the bars here, and unlimited beer all the way there, plus your ticket to the game, and then halfway they cut you off at Barstow. You can drink almost all the way halfway home, and then at Barstow it's like last call. And then you come back. So it's really kind of a fun thing, but I usually go. And so the Cubs are in LA, go hit Philippe's for the original French dip. Delicious. Right there near the ballpark. Get stuck in, 2-hour traffic to get out. It's a fantastic experience, but usually it's great.
2 hours?
Yeah. But to go support the Cubs and watch the Cubs play. It's always nice. I haven't got to see the Cubs play this year, right? That's what I usually do when they hit the West Coast. I just, it's a 4-hour drive. Boom. Let's go have a blast. Have a couple days. Not this year. No, thank you. And 4 games in LA too. It's very easy for me to hop down there, but I'm just not right now. I'm just not in an emotional place where I want to make a drive like that to watch what happened, which was the Cubs got swept. All 4 games. Yesterday being the coup de grace, they had 2 separate 5-run leads before the 4th inning that they blew. And so they played pretty well in the previous years. They had won 4 straight series heading into that. Cub fans, and I knew this too. It was a great little stretch, probably the best stretch of baseball they'll have for the rest of this whole season. That was their best stretch. They just shot their load. It's over now. Dodgers did like they did last year, which is knock the Cubs into the dirt. So it's back to the Cubs. Don't get any. This was supposed to be an easy couple game series, but the Orioles, they're not easy games at all. The Orioles are good, and then it's Atlanta. Is it Atlanta this weekend? Am I going crazy? Shoot, I think it's Atlanta this weekend. But it's not going to get any easier for the Cubs. But with that said, while the major league product is not great, I guess we'll say the futures game was announced. And who is it from the White Sox? The White Sox had Colas. That's right. Colas was from the White Sox was named to the futures game. And Pete Crow Armstrong, last year's trade deadline acquisition from the New York Mets for Javi Baez, in essence a rental. But Pete Crow Armstrong was injured at the time. And so he was kind of like a question mark for the Mets organization. So the Cubs took a little risk on a guy that was a little banged up. And Pico Armstrong, who is ranked, I think, the 35th ranked prospect in all of baseball now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, jumped up to 35th. He is going to be playing for the Cubs. So pretty exciting. If you do follow, we're at this point now where we really do Cub fans are following prospects. We're watching teenagers again. We thought this was never going to happen. but we're watching teenagers because the major league product is so bad that there's really nothing else to watch. And so single A, high A, double A, Tennessee is fun to watch, but really the place to really watch is South Bend right now. South Bend has got some real good talent for the Cubs. And so if you were someone that lives in South Bend, like my good friend Ben Case, you get to see these guys play all the time. It's like watching a all-star team when he describes just the way that they look and they move. You know, he's my former assistant coach and he moved back to South Bend. So he has a pretty good eye for talent. And Ben was watching, you know, he observes and he's like, these guys are, so I'm that's where we're at though. So for Pete, we're at the, you know, you guys are struggling with, as White Sox fans, with the expectations of winning season. The Cubs are, you know, on the verge of a fire sale. They're on the verge of, you know, the second straight season selling at the deadline. Whereas, you know, the White Sox, I think you kind of made it clear that this is kind of a buyer or don't do anything. You know, maybe they'll sit pat like they did last year or like they always do. But this year for the Cubs are going to be sellers. And so I'm not sure how familiar you are with what the Cubs have to buy or sell, but for you, what do you think about, I guess let's start with your opinion on, you know, seeing from across town, seeing the Cubs selling the glorious Cubs that, you know, World Series champion in 2016, you know, 5-6 straight playoff appearances now for 2 straight seasons, burning the house down in July.
Well, we've talked about the Contreras issue before. And now that he's a little banged up, yes, he's the all-star starting catcher, I get it. But now that he's a little banged up, does that impact his value in the trade market? That's number one. I think they waited too long to trade him. I think they could have got more for him at the beginning of the season because obviously any team will pay more for a full season than a half season. And it's not like I don't know of any catchers, any team, contending teams' catchers that have gone down injured except the White Sox. And I think that the Cubs missed their opportunity to truly capitalize on Contreras. I think they'll get something good back for him, but I don't think it'll be as much as they could have gotten at the beginning of the season. That's number one. I could see Stroman being a trade piece going out the door. The only question I would have with Stroman is who would want to take on that contract? And would it be the old-fashioned like hockey bad trade for bad trade or basketball expiring contract, that kind of thing? One name that immediately comes to mind who I think I could see is like Will Myers from San Diego. Something like that. You know, Stroman for swapping for Will Myers. You know, something along those lines. I'm not saying him specifically, but something along those lines. David Robertson may be another possible candidate to trade and get something. You're not going to clean out a farm system with these trades.
Bingo.
But you got to be strategic about it and say, "Oh, we're talking to San Diego. Okay, we like this prospect, and this prospect. Let's start asking for the high tier guy. But we'll settle for these other ones. But let's start here in the hopes that it's like the White Sox and they just go, no, okay, here you go. Oh, Colson Montgomery for a half year and Wilson Contreras? Yeah, that seems fair as long as you eat the rest of his contract. That, you know, that's, you know, but that's really with the Cubs all that I see, because looking at the team, now you could trade Schwindel, you could trade, you know, what's his name, Wisdom. You could trade those guys, but there's no realistic return that you're going to get. It's a lottery ticket that maybe it comes to fruition. Remember that Dylan Cease was a lottery ticket when the Cubs traded him to the White Sox. And they managed to cash it in. So, yeah, Colin Montgomery, yeah. I want to talk about that too, by the way. But with the Cubs, I think they missed their chance to maximize the value with Contreras. And I think there's other pieces they could sell, but don't expect a top 10 prospect or anything like that for the other pieces they have to sell. Like your Robertsons, does Ian Happ go? Maybe you get a little more for Ian Happ. But again, the contract plays a factor in it too. Now I'm not trying to change the subject. I need to bring this up because Svo made a comment about Colin Montgomery in the comments. And anyone who follows my Twitter, I get a lot of grief because people feel that I dislike Sox Nerd and I go after him when he makes mistakes on the scoreboard, which are quite a bit. The mistake in question is the White Sox prospect is named Colson Montgomery, not Colin Montgomery. It's Colson, Colson, not Colin, Colin. And if you're talking about Colin Montgomery, the golfer, I believe his name ends with an IE, not a Y. But my point of raising all of these scoreboard mistakes to the White Sox is because if you cannot communicate your product accurately to your customers, how can you expect your customers to care because you don't care enough to give them accurate information? That's my point.
That's a good point. It's true. It's true.
Whenever
I get my my sign that they put up on my classroom and it says Fidler, Fidler, I want to. That always makes me feel good about myself.
Yes.
But,
yes, exactly. And by the way, there was a second mistake that I did not catch in that scoreboard that somebody else pointed out to me.
Mm-hmm.
They spelled Kannapolis wrong. Now, Kannapolis has been one of their affiliates for 20 years. You would think they would get it right.
True.
So that is my take on it. It is nothing personal against Sox Nerd, but if you want, excuse me for a second there. If you want to build a fan base, give them accurate information.
It's true.
This isn't rocket science.
That is true. That is true. And also, commas save lives. Okay.
Yes.
So it's a dot different than let's eat, comma, grandma compared to let's eat grandma, no comma.
Yes.
So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we're looking at and you make a couple good points with some guys that are going to be possibly moved for the Cubs. I look at the Cubs right now. When I look at their numbers, Ian Happ is should be. He's an all-star. Should be. I mean, it's going to hurt Cub fans. It's going to hurt a lot. Ian Happ feels like a guy that you could probably now extend for a moderate contract, but he's having a great year. He's hitting 276. He's got 8 jacks. He's got 41 walks. He's having a good year. He's been very impactful as a Cubs player, around the diamond. And, he's got 1 year left. He's got 1 more year of arbitration in his contract too. So he's cost controlled a little bit. He should be a very, of all the trades that the Cubs might make. I mean, the Wilson Contreras trade will be nice, but that one's like, that's a short-term rental. Whereas Happ, a trade for Ian Happ is you're getting a guy at a relatively inexpensive arbitration type salary, which at that point, that's actually a pretty hot commodity. That makes him more valuable to some franchises. I think that Ian Happ might be the first one to go because of that. I think before Wilson Contreras. And I wouldn't be shocked. And that's something that, again, Yumper and I wish you could be a part of we've talked about Ian Happ being tradable since last year. And I think we've mentioned it on Twitter multiple times. And people like some of the other Cubs people on Twitter laughed us off like we're insane. The same way they kind of laughed us off when we said at the beginning of the year, we may get Stroman to get traded before the All-Star break or before the trade deadline too, for all we know. And this is back before he even pitched a ball game. You've got these guys that Ian Happ is one of those guys, though. He's valuable and he's cost controlled still. So you got that. I don't think Nico Hoerner is going somewhere. I'm getting a lot of fans that have a strange obsession with a Nico Hoerner trade. The Cubs own him through 2026. He ain't going anywhere. He is cheap. He gets $700,000 a year. Nico ain't going anywhere. Cubs are no chance. And then you got Wilson Contreras, who is, again, a rental. He's having a good year for a catcher. He's having a very good offensive season. but there has to be concern. They did wait a long time. They haven't had. He's been in bubble wrap. He's probably only caught, I don't know how many games behind the dish. I'd probably say maybe like 30 to 35% of the Cub games this year. He's maybe caught. Like, he's not catching a ton. So he's a rental. And Wisdom, I don't think is going to go anywhere again. Very inexpensive and team controlled for a couple good years. So and the Cubs are willing to throw him out there because he's exciting, and fans think that he's great, and they think he's the best thing since sliced bread when he's hitting 228 and he shows up every fourth game and has a magical game every fourth game. But that only gets you one win. And Seiya Suzuki's going to be around, not going anywhere. Ortega might be a trade guy, a good switch guy. Christopher Morel's off the table. I don't know about Rivas. He's really not much to sell. I mean, PJ Higgins is a guy, a Cubs catcher, but he's someone that I feel like makes it easier for us to lose Wilson Contreras because he's hitting really well at a high level as well. I don't know about Andrelton Simmons. If someone wants a defensive replacement, I don't even know what the guy looks like. Basically, he's been that non-existent with the Cubs. Bodie's there. David Bodie hit a jack yesterday. I don't know, but Cub fans need to temper their expectations, I guess my point. Pitching staff-wise, yeah, you got Robertson. You got a couple guys in the bullpen that can maybe help somebody. But Cub fans thinking that they're going to get a return like last summer where it was a blockbuster, considered to be what should be considered blockbuster pickups with prospects, the best. You're not going to get a top 3 prospect for Wilson Contreras in somebody's organization. I'm sorry. You're going to get a 5 to a 10 minimum from them. You're not going to get their best. So calm your butts a little bit. If you think that the Cubs are going to trade a guy for a rental and they're going to give you the Yankees are going to send you, I don't know, I'm just using a team. Whoever is going to give you their top prospect for a guy that's going to be there for 3 months. No. Yeah. So that's not going to happen. So temper the expectations. That's why this fire sale is going to be a little bit less. Ian Happ can get you some, but Ian Happ is still barely almost like, feels like me, barely a prospect still. He was not that old, but just temper the expectations for the return. You're not going to get 3 top 7 prospects. You're not going to get a Pete Crow Armstrong. You're not going to get, a Canario. It was a Canario. Yeah, Canario for Chris or Alcantara, I think, right? Kevin Alcantara, the guy that I am a big fan of, the guy they got for. I love Pete Crow Armstrong, who they got for Javi. I really love the dude they got for Anthony Rizzo as well. The 2 dudes, the pitcher and Canario, TBD with the KB trade. That's just a different one. I'm probably biased. So, the best trade they got, the best return they got was when they traded Yu Darvish and officially threw the towel in on the season last year before it even started. So, but just temper the expectations. These guys aren't those guys. Yu Darvish was a Cy Young candidate. You had a former MVP. You have Javi. You have Riz. Those are big names. So you're not going to get that. No offense to Wilson Contreras, even he's an all-star, but he's a rental. You're not going to get much for a rental. Although it has happened, but temper the expectations. So that's where the Cubs will be with the selling. But I think that you're going to get. I think that next week, in the next 2 weeks, you might see some guys go. I think it'll be Happ. I think it'll be Contreras. I think we'll obviously see. Was it Robertson or whatever?
Yeah.
I think he'll be gone. I think you might even see like a Rowan Wick. I don't know if they can sell Drew Smiley. I don't know if they can sell him for a bag of sunflower seeds at this point. Kyle Hendricks, I don't know if he's sellable either. It just is really up to Kyle Hendricks, to be honest. So if Kyle goes to a winning team, he wants to go compete for a winning team, they should let him go to a winning team. And I'm sure he'll do what he can to go and help that team win. But I don't know if there's a market for him. So I don't think you're going to see as big a fire sale, but this team's so bad that you take away 2 or 3 of those guys and this team's 105 loss team minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and again, I think this tactical mistake the Cubs made was keeping Contreras.
Yep, they waited too long.
That was the tactical mistake they made because, again, you could get more for a full season versus a rental. Now, in fairness, the dynamic could change if one of these contenders loses their catcher. There could be, some desperation involved, but that's with the way teams are structured now, they have 2 catchers, so it's not like you're losing a Johnny Bench or anything like that from any team or a Buster Posey or someone like that. You're not losing that caliber catcher because the catchers anymore are not at that caliber. They're more interchangeable because of the wear and tear that gets put on the body. Let's face it, those guys, Ivan Rodriguez, Bench, Gary Carter. Those guys were freaks. Being able to withstand the wear. Carlton Fisk, holy Christ, was he a freak? Catching until in his 40s? What? A helped freak, mind you, but a freak nonetheless.
So that said,
Mm-hmm.
the next time we will have this podcast, it will be after the Major League Draft, which is going to be this
Sunday night. Sunday's the first round.
Right, Sunday through Tuesday. So you're going to get,
Yes.
And so a lot of stuff, a lot of wheels in turn. Got a lot of top 100 lists popping down, and we're having a really cool show on the Pinwheels and Ivy on Wednesday night. We're doing a pre-draft, like a MLB draft preview. We're welcoming Tanner McDougal, White Sox 5th round draft pick last year. He's going to come on the show a little bit. He's going to talk about his experience in his prospect, as a prospect, everything leading up to and beyond the draft and the signing, all that stuff, just about the experience. And then so I created a spreadsheet for that because I want to.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Tanner McDougal's Twitter today, he was throwing pitches.
Yeah,
and it was nice to see.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and he's getting there. Yes. And he they haven't let him cut it loose yet, but he's building. The kid just works his ass off. I love it. So with the draft, the Cubs are the 7th overall pick in the draft this year. The White Sox are the 26th, I believe. So
somewhere around there, yes.
A lot of speculation as to what's going to happen, who's going to go where. And with the Cubs, a top 7 pick is a pretty good value spot in the Major League Draft. I mean, your first round picks, a lot of people need to understand this is not the NBA. This is not the NFL. You're not drafting superstars in the first round every single time. If you draft a player in the first round, the expectation should be that they are a contributing Major League player one day and a consistent one. Not just like someone that got a cup of coffee and is out. So you're not trying to. I mean, you're trying to draft a superstar, of course, but you always got to say if you hit on a guy that's you draft in the first round and becomes a regular major leaguer, the good career, you did it right. So the Cubs are picking 7th. It's up in the air where they're going. I looked at the MLB. They did a mock draft on the Athletic. The Cubs, they've got Brooks Lee from Cal Poly. As the Cubs 7th with the Cubs 7th pick, which he's not bad. I actually had him on my list. He is a good contact guy that has some really good bat control. But I know I had read that his bat control was one of the bigger drawbacks, or not drawbacks. Excuse me, positives. He reminded me. He's the guy that I actually called. I believe the if I'm not going crazy here, the taller, stronger Nick Madrigal, meaning he's a very good bat control contact guy. And his talent, what makes him talent, they call him the best pure hitter among call. He had a walk to strikeout rate at 2 walks per 0 strikeouts. So two walks, he was a 2.0, so a 2-to-1 walk strikeout guy. So he walked twice as much as he struck out. He controls, he's good with fastball. He's a 40-yard dash runner. He's a he's a third baseman probably. He'll be fine there too if he did, but he's a great guy that could make an all-star team as a third or second baseman, but doesn't project to be a superstar is what they, but he's got great hand-eye coordination, which you've heard that before, right?
Don't you hear that every year?
Now, for me, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, but there's a kid named Cam Collier out of Chippewa College. He's a kid. He left high school after his sophomore year. And he went and played for Chippewa last year as what would be a junior in high school. So he should be technically a senior in high school going into this school year. So he's a year ahead of everything. He's a third baseman. He's a big kid. He's got a lot of room to grow. He's got a 70 arm already. But
is he homeschooled now?
No, he graduated, took his GED like Bryce Harper.
Oh, okay.
He enrolled in college when he should be a junior in high school. He was in college, playing college. So he's younger than everybody else. And so he has a lot of stuff. He's going to be a top 5 pick. He's not going to fall to the Cubs. So I got to kind of like temper my sadness. But I do also, there's a kid, let me see, where is he? He is actually, it's a little deeper in the draft. And I actually made a joke about Jed thinking he's the smartest man in the room, making a pick that might be kind of what did you do that? But I actually do mean it. There's a kid named Dylan Lesko. He's a right-handed pitcher out of Buford, Georgia, Buford High School. I want him. Like if the Cubs, This is a guy that probably should be in the top 5. But because he had Tommy John in April, a minor Tommy John, he had just forearm discomfort, just slight comfort. And they found, kind of like with Tanner, they found that it was a little worse. So they just said, let's go ahead and do the surgery now instead of it maybe really tearing later. So it was really preemptive because of the young age. I mean, just like Tanner's an 18-year-old coming out of high school. He's got plenty of time. So they did it. Same with him. So he got it done April. He's a guy that throws like 92, 94, 96. Maybe, I guess he was touching at 97. I was talking to another scouting buddy right before he got hurt. He was throwing 97. So he is a guy that I've seen the comps. My scout guy that I was talking to actually says he reminded him of Lucas Giolito. And I've seen that in 2 places now, actually, which Lucas Giolito was drafted 16th overall in 2012. And he waited and blew his arm out on his first inning of work as a minor leaguer.
It was something like that. Yeah, it was quick.
And so that was with the Blue Jays? I don't remember. Anyway, so this kid
Nats.
Nats, that's right. Nats. Yeah.
So
other than that, though, the thing is, they said it's the best changeup. The scout guy says best changeup he's ever seen from a high school pitcher ever. 20 years. And so he says that this kid has it. He learned a curveball with a high spin rate. I hope that had nothing to do with his elbow, but he's a guy that I hope the Cubs. His name's Dylan Lesko. He's a right-handed pitcher. So if you hear me, if you see me cheering a Dylan Lesko, and people are like, who the is this guy? I was making fun of Jed saying he's too smart, and I think this is a guy that I think Jed actually would go for because he could be a huge get if he pans out. And it's just, I hate to say, you don't want to minimize it, just Tommy John. Well, it is just Tommy John. He should recover just fine, especially at his age. So if the Cubs take, again, his name is Jordan, or excuse me, let's look at the other guy, Dylan Lesko. Look, that's a good one. That's a Lucas Giolito guy, but that's what they have. So now let's look at the White Sox. Their mock draft that they did. So they have the Cubs. They got obviously Drew Jones. Andrew Jones' son is going to be probably the first overall pick. Jackson Holiday, the second overall pick. Guess whose dad that is?
Would that be Matt?
Mm-hmm. And so they got a kid out of Texas Rangers going with the IMG kid. Pirates going with Cam. So Pirates, look, they got the Pirates taking the kid, the high school kid, in the 4th round, the Collier kid. Well, he's not a high school kid; he's a college kid technically, but he should be in high school. So the White Sox, we dig down deeper into the draft. Well, they have Lesko going 15th to the Padres. They would, wouldn't they? All right. Well, there's a kid from Nevada projected to go 16th from Reno High School. White Sox 26th, right? So
yes.
Jet Williams, shortstop, Rockwell High School, is the projected pick from the staff at The Athletic. A stuffed monster college pitcher that will be challenged to keep in the rotation. Physically limited, but high-performing college bats. And so it says hunting for impact. Oh, they're trying to be clever with it. Beyond a cool name, Williams offers a combination of all good trends. He's an undersized Texas high schooler, carries that requisite level of skill to buy into his hit tool, playing at higher levels. But if you do the math to the point of offering millions of dollars, maybe he reads as a more physically well-rounded version of the 2018 Nick Madrigal.
Oh, God.
That was written by James Fagan, by the way. So that's
well, I'm going to throw a little monkey wrench into this because there is one name out there that I honestly believe that if he gets to the White Sox, they will draft him. If he gets there, and I think that's a big if, but if he gets there, and I'll explain why they will draft him. The name is Kumar Rocker.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason they will draft him if he's there is because he is very close to being major league ready. And they love to get these guys who are close to major league ready, have them down in the minors for a month, and then promote them to the show.
Yeah.
And I can see that because that's what happened with Garrett Crochet. That's what happened with Carlos Rodon. That's what happened with Chris Sale. These guys were in the minors a very short time. Rodon actually was drafted in 14. He came up in like late April of 15. But Sale spent maybe a month in the minors. Crochet really didn't even spend any time in the minors because of the pandemic. So
Well,
I could see them doing that with Kumar as well, with Kumar Rocker as well.
I'm not sure he'll get that far. They got him projected to go to Colorado in the 10th pick, but
Yeah.
here's me. I'm going to advocate for this. You're going to hear me say this quite a bit. This name you're going to hear a lot. Everybody here in town has been telling me how good they are. So, of course, I'm going to be a homer. Of course, I'm going to be a homer. But they're talking that one of the most talented kids to come out of Vegas, period. This is including Bryson Stott. This is including Chris Bryant and Bryce Harper. Tyler Anderson, Jason
Greg Maddux.
Marty Cordova. We can go down the list. They're saying he's one of the most talented kids to come out of Vegas. His name, you might recognize his last name. Again, pedigree. But he's a Bishop Gorman kid, so he comes from Joey Gallo's high school. So same place that produced Joey Gallo. Is Bishop Gorman High School outfielder Justin Crawford.
Carl?
Yep, Carl Crawford's
Okay.
kid.
Okay.
So he is obviously you concern yourself with will he go to college, because he could go to college. But he is a kid that if you can go out there, he's a fantastic defender. He's elite speed like his father. Every little bit of my guy that I talked to, he works with a team that's on the West Coast. I'll just put West Coast. I don't want to like totally dog him out.
Okay.
He works with a team that's on the West, middle to West Coast. So not like it doesn't have to be like somewhere between like Colorado and West. And
Colorado and California. Just
he's been like dogging Crawford hard. Oh, geez, Tate Martell, not Tate Martell. No, not Tate Martell's fault. No, Tate Martell's different.
no,
But
has Tate Mazel.
I know. I think he made it. He's talking about, but that's where Tate went to Gorman. Yes, but he. So this kid is pretty elite. I mean, they're touting him as a guy that if the White Sox have him, if he's available at 26, the White Sox would be insane to not draft him and pay him. I mean, he's 6'3", he's 175 pounds right now. Again, he boasts the speed. He's a pitcher. He can pitch a little bit too, but I mean, let's be honest. I mean, his exit velocity is already elite. Out of hand, he's throwing 85 miles an hour easy. I mean, he runs a 6'1", 60. Let me repeat that. He runs a 6'1", 60.
Damn.
And I'm watching some video of him right now. Again, he comes through a baseball well. He's got good fast twitch. Excuse me. He's got good first reaction too. I mean, I'm watching his footwork right now. Good read. Comes through baseball. Good finish. And that ball's on a rope. Nice. So he's a guy that you're definitely going to want to, if the White Sox snag him, be very happy. He could be available with the 26th pick. So if I get the opportunity and he's there, I am the White Sox. I am taking Justin Crawford, outfielder, Bishop Gorman High School, the son of Carl Crawford, who was a multiple-time All-Star with the Devil Rays, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Then he signed a big contract with the Red Sox and went to crap.
Mm-hmm. And made a baby who is now a fantastic baseball player in his own.
Yes. Yep.
So that's what we're looking for the White Sox. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple guys around there. You got the Cole Young kid from Allegheny, who's a good shortstop. You got Blake Tidwell is going to be available around that spot. The Jet Williams kid is who they're projecting. There's a kid from Stanford, the Brock Jones kid. But it's so interesting with baseball, the baseball draft, because all these guys, to most fans, are just names.
It's a lottery ticket.
It is. It is. So many baseball prospects around the country, whether it's college or high school. It's not like the NFL or basketball where like it's so isolated. You know who the studs are. Baseball, you could have a team where you have a guy that's projectable and his numbers look like shit. He's hitting like $180 and it's just bad fundamentals. And all of a sudden you fix them and boom, all of a sudden, bam, they're excellent. So like it is very different. And so you look at these kids, I think Drew Jones is as pretty clear cut a first overall pick as you could possibly get. But Jackson Holliday, Elijah Green, and Cam Collier all could be the second pick overall. But they could also fall to 7 or 8. So you don't really know who it is. The Washington, I think that they're pretty clear on this. I think Georgia Tech, that catcher, Parada, I think he's probably going to – the Nats need that for their depth. So I think that's a pretty good bet that he's going to be taken. But, again, there are a lot of high school kids and a lot of like the Cal Poly kid that they're projecting with the Cubs. He's basically a better contact, a little bit stronger Nick Madrigal at the plate. So I don't know. And a shortstop, more shortstops. Cubs need more shortstops. God, more shortstops. But so that's what we're looking, and that would be the Cubs passing on Kumar Rocker, who I wouldn't have a problem with the Cubs taking Kumar Rocker if push comes to shove. I wouldn't hate that at all. Actually, I would be fine with that. So
if he's there, I just see the White Sox doing it because they've done it before.
mm,
I agree. I don't think he will be there, but some teams may still be scared off by the medicals.
and if the medicals are scary, you obviously want to stick away from that.
Right.
So, all right. So we'll see next week though, or next episode. I'm sure we'll be breaking it down. I do want to plug the Pinwheels and Ivy though, because we're going to have that.
Absolutely.
And then I guess we've wrestled up apparently some really cool for the post draft analysis draft. We're gonna have some that we're actually having real experts come on and talk about it. Some actual people that cover the White Sox and the Cubs actual farm system. They're going to come on and talk about where these guys fall into the pecking order.
Oh, fantastic!
And we might
listen
on our show as well. We've been talking to some of those guys, so keep that in mind. Keep that open. I know we're talking about having guests on here. We keep leaving poor Mailman Jack. We're sorry. I think tonight we were supposed to have you on, so we need to have Mailman Jack on. But we're going to start having some guests on here as well. Over the off season, I would really love to have some great names. Whether it's we've had a couple guests already in the past, some real baseball people in here, and be fun to have.
There's one I'm trying to work on, and unfortunately, I won't see him until October. But I'll work on them, and because I think it would be, if there's any chance of it, it's probably easier to do in the off season than during the season.
Absolutely. Yep. And maybe we'll
you know who it is. You know who it is. And like I said, it is. Would you say it's the white whale?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. yeah. Like that would be the kind of thing that would make me. I would just sit here just quietly. That's one of those things that would shut me up.
Because I think it's safe to say his knowledge would make the two of us look like idiots.
Yeah. Little babies.
Yes.
Again, as we segue over to the next little quick segment, as we jump from baseball to entertainment and music, we're going to make sure again to plug Saturday, August 20th, 2022, the Yumper and Swo charity barbecue to benefit Planned Parenthood. Buy your tickets on eventbrite.com. Again, it's called Yumper and Swo at the Show Barbecue and Movie. So give it a look. Tickets are $25, and there will be nudity that night, or at least a belly button shown.
Yes.
But again, all proceeds will be going to benefit Planned Parenthood. And but again, check them out on the Twitters at Yumper and Swo at the show.
At the show.
And or find them on Eventbrite themselves. Or you can type in their home address, dox them, and then follow them to their house at one day when they work, staring creepily through their window with a knife between your teeth.
Yes.
With what?
Arg.
Oh, shoot. And watch out. Yeah, we don't want anybody feuding with Gabe either, so be careful.
Yes.
Can't have that. All right. So with that said, we're going to talk a little bit of entertainment. A couple movies have been coming out and have hit the theaters over the last couple weeks. And the big one, of course, was a box office smash that made, did they say
140, I think it was.
$143 million in opening weekend. Non-holiday. Was it a holiday? It wasn't even a holiday, was it?
No, it was after the 4th.
It was a holiday weekend. And 302 million globally. Thor: Love and Thunder. Now, Pete, you haven't seen it yet, correct?
I have not seen it.
Okay, so we'll taper off this a little bit. I'll just give you a quick little rundown. I know you.
I heard all I needed to heard when it was told to me that there is a lot of Guns N' Roses music in there.
Absolutely, yes. There's an homage to it. I mean, there's even a character that really is like the epitome of Guns N' Roses love. So great stuff. But if you get a chance, I mean, there has been some critique coming. We could do a full breakdown of it next week. But if you haven't seen it yet, I definitely recommend it. I know, Pete, you're going to see it here when you get a little free time. But, I can tell you this, it's an enjoyable film. It's fun. It's funny. I laughed. It's entertaining. It's, if you're a huge Marvel snob, yeah, you're probably not going to like it, actually. If you're going into this film looking for something like life-changing and symbolic that's going to break and change who you are in the psyche of the world and your expectations and thoughts,
Or you're looking for some kind of message.
yeah, it's just that it ain't that serious, Chief. It's literally fun, and it's a big fun ride. It's very, it really does. It has a Taika Waititi's feel. It's Taika Waititi, the director. It's got a childlike wonder to it. And it's about children empowerment too. There's a real big theme about you're never too young to be strong and to stand up for yourself. And there's a lot of really good little things in there that do it. But the humor is great. I could say that I'm ready though. Just I don't want to make this as a negative, but I am ready for like smoldering and badass Thor again though. I love Chris Hemsworth when he's playing silly Thor, and it's been fun. Ragnarok's my favorite Marvel MCU film, period. And I love it. I love the humor. It's silly, and they keep it going in this one. They look like they had a real good time filming this. They look like they had a lot of fun together. But
this ball game is over. The White Sox lose 8-4.
So back to the positive. That game lost to Valhalla.
Yes, exactly.
But the movie itself, it's great. But I'm ready for serious Thor again. I'm ready for the like in the original, the Kenneth Branagh Thor. I want Kenneth Branagh Thor again. I just, it's been fun. So I have no complaints. And it did look like it was a blast for these guys to film. And I know a lot of stuff apparently ended up on the cutting room floor. I bet you there was a lot of improv on set, but it's worth seeing. It's worth seeing in a big loud format. I've seen it twice already. I saw it in Dolby on Thursday. Last night I went and saw it in 3D IMAX just to kind of see how that format looked. I mean, it's a minimal change. If you like 3D, cool, go for it. I like the Dolby, the big theater with the reclining seats. Give me that. I was more comfortable. I laughed my ass off. It was great. So it's worth seeing though. Check it out. I mean, don't listen to the critics on this one. Just if you like Thor film, if you like Ragnarok, go see it for sure. I actually am starting to find out some of these film critics that are giving it bad reviews thought Ragnarok sucked too. I'm like, Jesus, what's wrong with you? But it is a lot of Guns N' Roses, a lot of cool style. The art direction is just gorgeous, fantastic. There are so many posters in this thing that could have been easily on like a heavy metal poster from the 80s. It's so cool. It's so, just like the first one, Ragnarok was more 70s. This one is more 80s rock. So that's why the Guns N' Roses plays a real big part of it. Tessa Thompson, she's awesome. She's a badass. Obviously, Natalie Portman as the mighty Thor, she's awesome. Very powerful storyline too there too. Her backstory that goes on with this as well. Korg, God bless you, Korg. He's my favorite. He was I love him, and that's worded or voiced by Taika Waititi. But hilarious character. We learn how Korg was born and how Korg species mates too. Very funny. So you'll see that, not as a spoiler by any means, but there's a lot of really good humor in this. There's some cameos. Obviously, if you've seen Ragnarok, you saw the cameo from Matt Damon in the with the other Hemsworth brother or whatever in the theater when they're playing that part, playing the roles of Loki and Thor, which is kind of funny. But they've got cameos. There's some characters that actually ended up not in the film too. And there's actually one character, I'm not sure who he was yet, but I'm still trying to figure out who he was. And I'm like, I feel like he's somebody because he was cracking me up. But the Guardians of the Galaxy appear, so you're going to get to see some, that's part of the plot as well.
And isn't there another Guardians movie coming next year?
Yeah, this is kind of like when we last see Thor. Thor is with them, helping them guard the galaxy, and he's just being happy Thor with Top Knot. But then you've got this, and you got Guardians coming out, and of course, in the whole plot of this, you've got to have the baddie, and the baddie in this case is Gore the God Killer, who is played by Christian Bale, who is one of my top 3 favorite actors of all time. You just said Christian Bale is the best Dark Knight. This is arguably one of the most terrifying and best performed villain in all the MCUs, in all the MCU films. He is good. I mean, he's putting on an Oscar-winning performance as a Marvel character, like when he's out there as a villain, which a villain with sharpened teeth and shit. Like, you're like, what? Like, I'm like, yeah, he's. I feel sadness for a bad character. So it's worth it. Russell Crowe, there's some cameos, with his bad Italian accent that sounds just as bad as Lady Gaga's House of Gucci. But it is. There's so many more cameos to it, though. There's a blast. It's fun, though. Go see it. If you don't, there's 2 end credit scenes. One sets up a really big new character to the MCU that I will not spoil. So stick around for the middle one. And the end one, I don't know what it really sets up, but it really makes you walk out of the theater feeling really good. So it makes you happy. It's a positive happiness kind of thing. So, but it does. I'm pretty stoked about the new character that's coming to be introduced into this MCU universe. Fans will be happy.
I'm hoping that there's one character which I felt was missing from everything with Thanos. And remember, I read the original comic books. So there's one character who was sort of Thanos's arch rival, if you will, that they briefly touched upon in a previous movie. But when I saw this character, I was like, okay, this is setting it up. And they didn't use him. They did not use the character. So I'm hoping that might be one of the ones that's further flushed out.
Okay. Very cool. Well, with that said, because you mentioned Thanos. You brought up Thanos, who is the first major, like, overarching phase villain in the Marvel MCU, the one that they built almost from the start.
Yes.
And with that said, he was a really good villain played by Josh Brolin, and well done. And they came, they saw, Infinity.
They kicked its ass.
Yeah. And so it was great. So that makes me, that we started talking about this, and it kind of segues into, again, checking out Yumper and Swallow show, Swallow at the show. But on their most recent episode, they touched on their favorite movie villains in film history. And so for you were talking a little bit. You mentioned a couple names maybe left out. But for you, I mean, we're just going to piggyback on, first off. I mean, we don't have to do a whole list like they did. But for you, thoughts like who's your villain? Who's your favorite villain? Or if you can't choose one, who's your top one or two villains?
Well, I don't want to give away who they named, but they did name, I would say, two of the ones that have stuck with me. Actually, three that have stuck with me the most. But there was one, I think, glaring omission. Let me rephrase that. There are two glaring omissions in there. One is an obvious one that I'm glad they did not take the cheap route and name this person, because everybody's going to be like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
They left Caillou out, didn't they? Little bastard.
No comment. But, so I give them the utmost props for not going down the easy path and taking one villain. The other one is, and I texted with the guys afterwards, and I said, great show, which it was. And I go, I think you forgot this one. And the one I think they forgot was Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Ooh,
now, yes, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a bit of an older movie. It is my favorite movie of all time. If you've ever read the book, my personal opinion, the movie is better than the book. And the specific reason I say the movie's better than the book is because the movie ends at the perfect spot. The book continues on from that spot where the movie ends. And the whole thing with Nurse Ratched is she is the, head nurse in charge? I don't know the charge nurse, whatever they call it, of the loony bin that they're in. Sorry, that's a politically incorrect term, I get it. But she's the head nurse of the loony bin that they're in. And she is trying to keep sanity and order by any means necessary. And the whole point of R.P. McMurphy, Randall Patrick McMurphy, famously played by Jack Nicholson in his first Oscar-winning role. By the way, one of only a few movies that won the 5 big Oscar awards. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Actor, Best Actress. It won all 5. Silence of the Lambs is another one. There's a big hint for you.
Hmm.
So it won all 5 of the major awards. And in the movie, Nurse Ratched is the yin to R.P. McMurphy's yang. He is an anarchist a good way to say what he is?
Um,
An agent of chaos?
Agent
Another big hint for you.
of Chaos, I would say.
Yes. And he decides that he's going to get himself committed instead of serving his prison term or finishing out his prison term. What he doesn't realize at the beginning is by getting himself committed, he does not finish his prison term. He stays there until they feel he is mentally fit to get out. So he sort of screws himself and is stuck there. And then when he realizes what happens, he basically, there's a famous scene about wanting to watch the World Series. And he is in there getting everyone riled up about watching the World Series. And then he does imaginary play-by-play of the 1963 Dodgers-Yankees World Series. Except he does it wrong because he has Mickey Mantle hitting a home run off Sandy Koufax, which I don't think happened. And by the way, the Dodgers swept the Yankees in that series in 1963. Just saying. But he then... And should I give away plot points? Because the movie's almost 50 years old.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So he then befriends a character named Chief, who is like a 6'6" Indian, maybe taller. And Chief begins to trust him, and he starts to speak to R.P. McMurphy. Chief has been thought by everybody to be deaf and to be a dumb mute who can't speak. But Chief is the smartest person in the loony bin because he keeps his mouth shut, keeps his head down, and no one bothers him. They form a friendship, and then they decide to escape. And all hell breaks loose as they try to escape. And where Nurse Ratched becomes truly evil is with a character named Billy Bippet, because he's in there because he has problems, sort of like me in a way, communicating with women. And McMurphy has a couple of his girlfriends show up for what becomes a party in the loony bin. And Billy winds up being with one of these women. And yes, it is implied that they do that even though you don't see it. And Nurse Ratched catches them, and she begins to guilt trip the shit out of Billy Bippet to the point where he kills himself by taking a bottle, breaking it, and slicing his throat. At which point, R.P. McMurphy freaks out and tries to kill Nurse Ratched. The whole point about Nurse Ratched is she's evil, she's iron-fisted, she runs this place where they're not allowed to express themselves. They're expected to conform into, you get your pills at this time, you have therapy at this time, you get this at this time, and everything else. They're expected to conform. So Nurse Ratched is the one who's trying to keep the conformity with everyone. And she goes above and beyond the normal standards of doing that. That's, to me, what makes her the villain, because she is trying to keep not R.P. McMurphy, but everyone else down. She's trying to shame them to stay there. Because what you find out in the movie is most of the inmates that R.P. McMurphy talks to are voluntary. They're not committed. And the reason they're still there as voluntary is because she's beat them down so much that they have no self-esteem, no confidence in themselves, and no ability. And because he makes the joke about, well, Billy, why are you here? Why aren't you out, banging beaver and picking up broads? Or I forget. It's like, I know banging beaver is part of the line, he says.
All right, right.
But that's the criminal that she is, or the bad person that she is. She's trying to keep them down so that they stay there, keep them conformed, not let them express themselves, not let them be themselves, not let them grow into who they could possibly become. And possibly, if they grow and become who they could possibly become, want to leave there. And they can leave there because they are voluntary.
Right.
So that's why I feel, I know it's a long dissertation and winding and somewhat, but that's why I feel that Nurse Ratched is one of the most evil people in cinema history. And I also believe, and I don't care what Yumper and Zvo said on the one episode, Rose DeWitt Bukater, or whatever the fuck her last name is also one of the baddest people in movie history. This is a woman who cheated on her fiance, because remember, she was engaged to Cal with the bad boy. Remember that? Remember all the women you dealt with in high school? I know I dealt with them. Oh, I can change this guy. He's the bad boy. He intrigues me. Leo was the bad boy, so she cheated with him. Cal goes out of his way to save her and get her on a lifeboat, and she spits in his face and jumps off to be with her bad boy, who she then rides the ship down into the water with, refuses to let him get on the door, tells him, I'll never let go, which she then lets him go, and Leo becomes fish food. And even if you want to dismiss all of that, here is the one thing you cannot dismiss about Rose DeWitt Bukater. At the end, she's standing on, was it the bow, the stern, whatever. She's standing on the ship, leaning over the rail. She has the heart of the ocean in her hand because she had it all 80 some odd years since the ship sank. Now, do you think she would say, hey, granddaughter, thank you for taking care of me. Here you go. I'm setting you up for generations with this because this is worth more than the Hope Diamond, as they explained in the movie. No, she throws it in the ocean.
She's to blame for Tony La Russa.
Yes, exactly. It's Tony La Russa's fault. She threw it in the ocean.
My God, what a. Oof. Well, that brings up a great question. I mean, that's a villain. I mean, you could say a lot of villains in that sense.
Yes.
All the ex-girlfriends in High Fidelity could also be villains, but which I watched on Saturday. That was pretty fun.
Well, by the way, Yump, she was not married. She was engaged. They were planning her wedding in Titanic.
It's true. It was pretty. They were making it. Well, no, yeah.
They were planning it. Mm-hmm. She was sailing home for her wedding with Philadelphia Society.
That works.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, for me, I mean.
Yes. To Yumper's point, sorry.
Oh no.
Yes, she was married later in life. That is correct. And she kept that diamond all that time, only to throw it in the ocean. She could have gave it to her granddaughter, who took care of her.
It's true. She could have really. But anyway, so like for me, I guess if you really want to talk about, I mean, from the forever villain for me will always be the Judge in The Natural. The ultimate villain for me. The guy that you always want to beat, the guy that's always rooting against you, even though they're supposed to be rooting for you. They own part of your interest in you, and they want to see you fail, and your vested interest in your failure. And so that's a good villain for me. But you and I sort of texting the other day, and that's what I wanted to cover real quick.
Yeah.
Gotta put a pin on this. You asked, is Travis Bickle, now if you've seen the film Taxi Driver, Travis Bickle is Robert De Niro's character. He's a character who is obviously not a clever name. He's a taxi driver in New York City, and kind of the scummiest part of New York City in Times Square. He's in the
70s.
In the 70s, right. Real gritty noir, and he's just awkward. He's a loner, and he's just enveloped in this whole society. And push comes to shove, he snaps, and he goes in some drastic. He makes drastic action. We don't want to spill too much of the tea, but basically, this leads to a really good question that you asked: is Travis Bickle someone who broke mentally, that had the mental break that led to their whole finale? Does that make him a villain, or are they not? So for you, what is your take? Do you think Travis Bickle's a villain, or is he an empathetic character in a tragedy?
I don't think he's an empathetic character to begin with. Is he deeply disturbed? Yes, no question. Does he have some I don't know if it's abandonment issues, but social awkwardness. I mean, if you haven't seen the movie, it's almost 50 years old. I don't care. Spoiler alert. He takes a date to a porno movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Whoops. Yum puts it well. A tortured soul.
And really to preface this too, because you're like, God, what a weirdo. No, here's the thing: is he was so enveloped in his society, in his environment,
Mm-hmm.
that
was normal.
That was normal to him. That was actually, well, yeah, let's go see it. I mean, it wasn't like a like creepy, like it was literally like, oh, let's go. It's a motion. It's his motion picture. Like it's
right
for him.
Right.
That's what you do. That's how you. He was trying to impress her. He was not trying to be like. He was trying to be a gentleman, like in a weird way. He was just, for some reason he was so into that point in his environment that he believed that was actually a gesture of kindness.
Yes.
Like, oof.
Yeah. I think he thought it was a gesture of, I want to let you into my life.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I do. I want you in it. Not realizing how out there his life was. And he gets a sense of purpose because he meets a 13-year-old hooker, a young Jodie Foster. And if this sounds familiar, yes, this is the movie, was John Hinckley, wasn't it?
Yes.
That John Hinckley modeled himself after. Trying to save Jodie Foster. And was Hinckley who killed Lennon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No. Mark David Chapman killed Lennon.
Mark David, yes, okay. Because Hinckley was Reagan, Mark David Chapman was Lennon, and they were like 3 months apart.
Yes, Hinckley Smith was the guy that he was actually obsessed with Jodie Foster and
yes,
Jodie
Taxi Driver
by shooting Ronald Reagan. Yeah.
Yes.
And he got out of jail. He just got out of jail like last week.
I was gonna say, yeah, he just recently,
just got out of jail finally, or whatever he was at, mental health.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Mark David Chapman will never get out of jail because the Beatles and Yoko and them, the perception of him, he has to stay in prison part of the rest. I think he's actually certain he'll spend the rest. He's the guy that killed John Lennon, even though he's probably rehabilitated. I hate to say that, like in a weird way, but he's been
right. Well, and to go off on a different tangent, that some of the Manson family has been rehabilitated, but they will never get out.
Yep.
They will never, because of the heinousness of what they did. Like Tex Watson is, well, first off, he had kids in jail.
Mm-hmm. He
got married, had conjugal visits, had kids and all that, and is a preacher, a motivational speaker in jail now. It's just weird. But getting back to Travis Bickle, he was a victim of his environment, and he's also a Vietnam vet too. And people have to remember how Vietnam vets were looked at the time this movie was made. They were looked at as baby killers, second-class citizens, you name it. And that probably plays a factor in how his character is developed and how his character moves forward in the movie. And the great thing about the movie, it's my personal favorite Scorsese movie. Yes, you could say Goodfellas. Yes, you could say Casino. Yes, all that. Taxi Driver to me is my favorite Scorsese movie because you can see throughout the movie De Niro's character, Travis Bickle, sliding into insanity. You can see it. And one scene more than any other illustrates that, and that's the famous "Are you talking to me?" scene. And that's, whenever you hear that, "Are you talking to me? Are you talking?" It comes from the movie Taxi Driver. Totally improvised by De Niro too.
Good. That's one of the great scene in front of the
mirror.
Yep, just great.
Yeah, but to the question at hand, I know we did a little breakdown of Taxi Driver, but to the question at hand, I think he is a villain because at the end of the day, he murdered people. Was it for you? And where I draw, was it for virtue to save Jodie Foster? Or was it because he truly snapped and that was the excuse he used? You don't know. You don't know. Because he planned it out. It's not like he showed up like, I'm going to save her. He had it strategically planned out. With the knife, with the guns, everything else, it was all strategically planned out. So that's why I think he's a villain.
See, it's an interesting argument. I look at it. I think he was more of a villain when he was trying to assassinate the senator. Is it the senator?
The guy running for senator.
Yeah, running for senator. Right.
Yes.
And which also reminded me a lot of what is it with Christopher Walken? Dead Zone. Reminded me a little bit of Dead Zone too. But that was like a couple movies around the same time period that came out about assassinating a politician, probably at the post JFK era. But
and if you ever, not to interrupt, but if you ever want to see a movie about assassinations, watch the Frank Sinatra version of The Manchurian Candidate.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's an incredible movie. And it's quite scary because this was released like a year before JFK was assassinated. And the term you hear, whenever you hear Robert Kennedy's killer, they call him a Manchurian Candidate. It comes from that movie starring Frank Sinatra. And Angela Lansbury, in one of her first roles, you won't ever look at Murder, She Wrote lady again.
It's true. Well, that's what I say. Like with Travis, he was going to assassinate a politician. Like that's not okay. In his pivot is, of course, to go rescue Iris, and he does. He shows up. Now, who does he murder? He murders
the
her pimp, and she murders one of the grown-ass 40-year-old dude there to have sex with a 13-year-old girl. Kills both of them, and
like one of the bodyguards at
say the bouncer. That is, of course, also implicitly at fault in this as well. So he basically kills three people that, in my opinion, if you're human trafficking a 13-year-old girl, I am fine with you getting popped in the head. So for me, I don't think that really makes him a villain. I think that was his alternate. That was his alternate. I think the villainous part was when he broke mentally, where he was going to do something that was harmful to others. I think that the end result, though, of his break led to a vigilante style of justice that, especially at the time, thinking about Death Wish and some of those other films at the same time, that was kind of a running thing, was the violent, the violent vigilante hero. And so, of course, his character, if you've seen the film, he's actually not sent to prison for it. But I don't think that someone, it's hard for me to call someone a villain that has a mental break in his sense. He's not in reality. He's not dealing with reality. He didn't intend, I just don't, I don't think that he was himself. And I think that he was a person that
he was trying to kill himself too.
Yeah. And that's a mental health issue. So for me, I can't villainize someone that's going through mental health things that they can't control. Now, using ADHD as an excuse for something like that would be like, fuck off, you're stupid. But if it's in his case, if it's like a full paranoid delusion that he is seeing, you can't control what that person sees. Like if he's hallucinating, it is what it is. How do you fault someone and call them a villain if they're just trying to survive whatever the vision, which is their own head, is telling them? Like that's hard for me. So it's I don't think to him as a villain. I think him as a tragic hero, a character that goes through this, and we look at it horrible. He's home to a horrible environment. The environment took him, and he broke under the environment, and he was swallowed up by the jungle of Times Square. And the result of being swallowed up into your own psyche never ever turns out well. It usually ends up violent. And these violent delights have violent ends, and that's how it goes. So I wouldn't call him a villain. I'd call him a tragic character. I wouldn't even say tragic hero. I guess tragic character. But that's a interesting debate to have, though, because I mean, it can go that way. He could also be considered a hero by killing the pimps and whatever. So I don't know where you go with that. But I looked at what he was about to do.
Yes.
And that to me is I guess the one that he planned out is terrifying to me, obviously. So that one's closer to villain than anything else.
Yep. And Yumper's right. You're only as healthy as you feel.
Mm-hmm. And again, the lonesomeness of the idea of fantasizing about being a hero, to being someone's hero. When you don't feel like when you're alone, you don't feel like you can always be. Who am I? What's my purpose? I'm not a hero to anybody. I want to be a hero. Like that's something that we all crave to be. Whether it's as a parent, you can be a parent and you're a hero to your child, or you can be a hero to, in my case, a hero to
the kid you coach, or the kid you teach.
Aspiring flamenco dancers worldwide is where I was.
There you go. I'm a hero to pizza delivery drivers, but
now I want to eat a hero for dinner. My Uber Eats order, but that's a great debate. I mean, again, that's kind of fun stuff. That's a beautiful part about film, where you can kind of like toss around ideas, and we all try to figure out what is Martin Scorsese trying to tell us.
And there's really no wrong answer, because the one thing to remember about films is, in something like, it's one thing to watch a comedy and either it's funny or it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But with something like this, you factor in, well, this is my life experience. These are the kind of people I've been around, where you're like, this is your life experience. These are the kind of people you've been around. It's all open for interpretation.
Yep.
And there's no wrong answer in it. You take it one way, someone else takes it another. So, and that's sort of like how you have to look at life too, to be honest with you, because someone may have a difference of opinion than you. That doesn't mean you can't be friends with them. That doesn't mean you can't, say, hey, we agree to disagree. Let's leave it at that. No, it's not a I'm right, you're wrong, in your face battle, which unfortunately a lot of things are becoming lately. And let me add one more thing before we log off. A moment of silence we lost two great actors recently. James Caan was number one, most famously known as Sonny Corleone in The Godfather, also played Brian Piccolo. A highly underrated movie he was in, and I strongly suggest you go watch it if you haven't, is called Thief, which is Michael Mann's first movie, filmed in Chicago. A lot of scenery on the north side. Green Mill is a place in that movie that shows up quite often. A very good movie. I also loved him in Honeymoon in Vegas too, just because of the cheesiness of the movie. And you can't forget the beatdown he took in Misery.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Adam Sandler, Damon Wayans film Bulletproof. That was a good
He's a good
exactly.
Villain. Yeah. And of course, Elf.
Enemy Mine was good too, with Manny. Another good one.
Yeah. And of course, we can't forget The Sopranos' very own Paulie Walnuts.
Mm-hmm.
Tony's, I hope I say Sirico is
Paul
Sirico.
Sirico.
Yes.
Sirico. Tony Sirico.
Tony Sirico. Okay. Yes. Obviously will forever be known as Paulie Walnuts. It's funny. I read a headline the day after he died, and they gave his character's real name from The Sopranos. I forgot what his real name was, because I always just referred to him as Paulie Walnuts.
Interesting thing about Tony Sirico, in 1970 he was arrested, found with a .32 caliber revolver, and in 1971 he was indicted for extortion, coercion, and felony weapons possession, convicted, sentenced to 4 years in prison, which he served 20 months at Sing Sing.
Mm-hmm.
He was connected. He was they said that he was and he also owned a discotheque in Manhattan. Interesting. He was connected early on. It looks like he kind of turned away and started
took a different route.
Yeah, he was his let's see here. Oh no, never mind. That's an older thing. Never mind. But yeah, he 80th birthday. I mean, he if you saw some of the last Sopranos cast got together for the anniversary or whatever, he did seem like he was having a little bit of cognitive issues.
Yeah.
With communication, he had a little bit of the, I don't know if it was Parkinson's, but he did have like his everything seemed a little bit off with him.
Yes.
And I think everyone in the crew, they were kind of deferring to him because they've obviously had conversations with him prior to the camera turning on, so they probably already knew that he was whatever was going on. I mean, they're saying that he probably had some dementia, I guess, towards the end. He had been diagnosed with that a couple of years before his death, so more than likely that was the throes of that. But he was in an assisted living facility in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, July 8th. And, you almost picture that's how Paulie would have gone in the first place.
Yes.
Paulie had a Cat of Nine Lives going out on his own accord,
Mhm.
peacefully in his bed.
Yep. And of course, Sunday at the Sox game, Beef and Chirizi were talking about the legendary what I forget the Pine Barrens, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pine Barrens episode where they're lost in the woods.
Mhm.
It was him and Christopher, wasn't it, in the woods?
Oh, yeah. Classic. So, Paulie Walnuts, we salute you.
Yes.
John, we salute you. And lost another one. I was like, everybody needs to go wrap Chaz Palminteri up into some fucking bubble wrap right now.
Yes.
Wherever he was at, because I'm like, crap.
Chaz, De Niro, and Pacino.
Yeah, they all made it through the weekend, so we're looking good. So,
Yes.
I mean, it is only Monday, but fingers crossed here.
Yeah.
Don't want to lose any more great ones. So, well, with that, man, got through a lot, touched on a ton tonight, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. We're going to be, obviously, we got a week in between. We got the draft coming.
And the trade deadline fast approaching. I wouldn't be surprised if there's trades on the Thursday after the All-Star game.
That makes sense.
Because all these GMs and like all the front office people generally tend to descend into wherever the All-Star game is. So there's some quality face-to-face time there too.
Mm-hmm.
We know the most famous one that came out of the All-Star break. Quintana for Eloy and Dylan Cease. And what was it? Brian Rose and Ryan Flette?
Bob Naga.
Not going to work here anymore.
And we will be back in 2 weeks. There is no White Sox game 2 weeks from tonight. So off night. So we will definitely have no.
Thank goodness.
At least for me, as we kind of wrap up on this, if you get a chance and they're on sale where you're at, go see the Black Keys concert. They kicked off their tour here on Saturday night here in Vegas, and I got to go see it. It was a fantastic show. There's a 30-minute segment of the entire thing that does some Mississippi Hill blues. Incredible. It's 30 minutes of just Delta blues. It's so fantastic. They bring Kenny Brown on, who's a legend into his own right, and it's awesome. So if you get a chance in Chicago, I know they're going to be hitting in Chicago.
I believe it's July 23rd at whatever the world is called now.
Yeah, don't miss it. It's a great show, man. I'll tell you. And their Band of Horses is opening for them. We unfortunately had some bad luck. Their bassist came down with COVID, was isolated, so they had to play a pared down show. But they're a great opening, such a weird dynamic too. It is a really cool, mellow band, followed by a really heavy band. I'm not sure who the third opener will be. We had Ceramic Animals. They're really good too, if you haven't heard of them. Smaller, up-and-coming band, but they got a really cool sound too that kind of sounds like a little bit Black Keysy, a little bit Dr. Dog if you like Dr. Dog. So, but give that a look-see. So that's for me. I mean, you want to go see a good show. It was a fantastic show. I brought a group of 5 friends. We all went, and not a single person didn't have a blast. So give it a look-see. Buy those tickets. Go see the Black Keys though on this tour. It's the what do they call it? It's a clever name because it's the
Dropout Boogie Tour.
The Dropout Boogie Tour. So they play well, some great visuals, and it's a fantastic show. These guys are supremely gifted. I've been big fans of these guys for the better part of 15 years. So my first concert with them was a free show in a beer fest in the Central Park in Salt Lake City, Utah, on a baseball trip. It was a free show. Like, it was one of those beer festivals that you buy quarter or tokens to get stuff. So it's not like a beer fest where you pay to get in and like it's unlimited. It literally was like for families. It was like a family night in the park that also had a beer fest around it. Free show, these guys playing. So the first time I saw them free, this was not a free show. It hurts, but so give it a chance. But other than that, keep an eye on the draft again. Keep an eye on your slots for the White Sox. But again, Crawford for the White Sox fans. Keep an eye on that guy. You want that guy. You want that guy right there. So other than that, I'll just turn it over to you, Pete. Take us on out, bud.
Sounds good. Again, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for listening. As I've said before, the greatest gift you can give someone is the gift of your time, because that is something you can never get back. And we are truly appreciative for that. If you have any questions for us, if you want to compliment us, you want to tell us we suck, of course, feel free. Feel free to DM us on Twitter or go out to the Tainted Glove website and leave a comment there. You could see our stuff. You could see Yumper and Zvo at the show stuff out there as well. with that, I'm going to turn it over to the true inspirational leader, the prophet of all prophets, our prophet. Yeah, dog, take it away. And aloha.